Welcome to the Weekend Live Show.
508 is where I'm from.
We run down the biggest stories of the week with you every Saturday night. Let us know in the comments right now where you reppin'.
Apache Junction, Taunton, Worcester, Long Island, Manchard, South Florida, Webster, Malden, Framingham, Tucson, Billerica, Salem, Gloucester, Moosop, Connecticut, Charleston, South Carolina, Roslindale, Moosop, Connecticut, London, Hanson, Glendale, Arizona, Lynn, Mapleville, Quincy.
Food stamps, leave your clothes, buddy, and
hey, you a funny ass guy, man.
Have you ever heard of Turtleboy? Yeah? Are you a fan?
508 is where I'm from.
Hey, what's up?
508 is where I'm from.
How was that?
You a freaking idiot. Stop telling people that I'm mentally deranged and stupid.
Call me Aidan. He's not a doctor, but...
Get out of my store, please.
You're a fucking loser.
You are a loser.
You're not a journalist. You're nobody.
You're not turtle hair. Don't make such fun of the criminal justice system.
NFL on the house, blog that.
Let's get this party started.
And I will not be intimidated. I will not be silenced. And we will continue on our journey for justice for John O'Keefe and for Karen Reed.
Tick, tick, boom. Noise. Go, baby, we bringing out toys. Boys, chop up the singing, should be on the voice. Bang, bang, we gon' ride out. Gang, gang, we don't die out. Want it like this, ain't no timeouts. Tell me who really gon' find out. We be disturbing the peace. Working, we serving the streets.
Karen Reed has supporters who've shown up in large numbers.
Tick, tick, boom. Hard body, and not scaring nobody. You make me resort to wildin'. You must be blind by the diamonds. I didn't want it to be this way, but y'all won't need to try this. So it's no way around it. You the loudest one, it's going quiet. We be disturbing the peace. Working, we serving the streets. About to go going beast. Bang, bang, leave you sleep.
This is the first time I think I've ever seen this. An outpouring of support for someone accused of murdering a Boston police officer. Unbelievable situation. Never seen anything like it.
Tick, tick, boom. You can't stop me, so who gon' stop me? You can't stop me, so who gon' stop me? You can't stop me, so who gon' stop me? You can't stop me, so who gon' stop me? We be disturbing the peace. Working, we serving the streets. About to go going beast. Bang, bang, leave you sleep. It's go, 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 go time. Tick, tick, boom.
Boom. What's up, people? Hold on. We're going to fix this. Hold on. There we go. All right. What's up, everyone? How's everyone out there doing tonight? Good. Excellent. Welcome to the live show, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Aidan Kearney. I'm the host of this program here. On Facebook, I go by Clarence with Emerson. You can follow me on Twitter at Dr. Turtleboy. That's actually my preferred pronoun because if Jill Biden's a doctor, then so am I. So you can call me that if you'd like. I prefer it. Old school turtle riders call me Uncle Turtleboy. Some people call me Daddy, which is a little bit weird at times, but I don't oppose it. I do not object if you insist on calling me that. I really don't care what you call me. Just be here every Tuesday and Saturday night at 9 p.m. And make sure you smash that subscribe button. We're almost up to 75,000 subscribers. That's pretty cool. You get like a plaque. I saw one at Tim Cast's house when I was there last year for 100,000 if you get one of those. So that'd be really cool if we got that. So make sure you smash the subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up afterwards. Comment on it. Helps the algorithms, etc. Yeah. What else am I forgetting here? Oh, yeah. So shout out. How many people we got on YouTube right now? Over 3,000 on YouTube. That's good to see. How many Rumble Rats? We got 126. Nice to see you, Rumble Rats, over there. And everyone else is watching on the Twitter machine. So that's great because we got a good show tonight. We got a good panel coming in. I'm going to introduce them in just a moment. Yeah. So look at So the Celtics are playing in the NBA Finals, okay? And obviously, whenever the Celtics are on, the show is going to not happen because obviously we're going to win the NBA Finals. It's going to be awesome. We should have won it 2 years ago. Should have won it last year, really. And we lost to the Heat. I still can't believe that. We're down 3-0. We came back, and then we lost in Game 7. What kind of shit is that? So I'm going to be streaming the games, and not like the games themselves. Like, you're just going to watch me watch the game. It might sound weird, but a lot of people like doing that. So Game 1 is on Thursday. We're going to be doing that. We're playing the Mavericks, beat Kyrie. We're going to fucking crush them, man. It'll be over in 5 games, so at least it'll be quick. You know what I mean? So we'll get back to the content here. It's honestly what I think is going to happen, and it's going to be dope. So anyway, if anybody wants their message read out loud tonight, the link for the Turtle Chat is pinned to the top. You can donate whatever amount of money you want, and when you do that, you get to write a message. I'll read it out loud to the class. Or you can cash at me at $UncleTurtleboy and do it that way. We got a couple here. I just want to bang through real quick. $50 from Nicole. She sent earlier. Says Jen McCabe is the Nicole Kessinger of the Canton boat crash. I think Nicole Kessinger was Chris Watts' Guma, if I have that right. Okay, I think she's a little worse than that. Super high five for the realist, most unapologetic, in-your-face investigative journalism. Rare breed you are, and I'm fucking here for it. Mop the floor with these liars. Well, thank you, Nikki. That's the plan. I appreciate that. Amanda sends 20, says, I just want to thank you for all you've done and continue to do. I know some people are not a fan of your style, but I love it. People need to remember, if it wasn't for you, the story would not be told. I mean, that's the one thing. It's just like, I mean, you appreciate the story, right? So like, shut up about my weaknesses and my flaws. Like, okay, I get it. Like, I'm not perfect. I'm not everything you want me to be. There's some stuff I do where you're like, oh man, I wish you didn't say that, or could have done without that. But you got to look at the big package. No pun intended. Okay. You got to look at the big package here. Either take all the good with the bad or don't take any of it all. I don't know what to tell you. Is what it is. So thank you very much for that one, Amanda. Faith sends $15, says, thanks for all you do. Thanks for the donation, Faith. I appreciate that very much. Got a couple cash apps here just to read before we get started. Jane sends $20 and says, free Karen Reed. Thank you very much, Jane. Patricia. Oh, this is from the other night. Patricia sent 50 the other night and said, love you. And Russell sent 25 the other night and said, you did this and should have no regrets. And 7-pounder sent $20 and said, the peeps making money off your story need to fuck off. Nah, I mean, I don't agree with 7-pounder. I love you, but I don't agree. Like, this is America. Everyone has a right to make money in America. I have no more right to make money than anyone else. And it's just people. I mean, that's how capitalism works. People pay for what they like. It is what it is. If you make a product or content that people are willing to pay money for, then more power to you. Right. So, all right, guys. And like, I don't own this story. I mean, I feel like I kind of made this story, but I don't own it. It's not mine. So it is what it is. All right, cool. Anyway, yeah. So I like I said, I don't know what I'm going to do after this. I'm going to be like a true crime guy. I was watching. Do you guys know that I was really into a couple years ago, the Fotis Dulos, Jennifer Dulos thing? That murder, and the Michelle Troconis just got sentenced to 15 years in prison yesterday. I was hooked on that yesterday because I'm having like withdrawals over the case. I don't know about you people. It's been how many days now since we've had a goddamn, a witness come up. I'm fiending for a witness. It feels like forever. So we are gonna have more on Monday. I have no clue who's going to be in there. We're on Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday this week. Will Michael Proctor testify or won't he? My sources from within the Reed team tell me no, not for the Commonwealth. He's definitely going to have to testify eventually, but it's a matter of, will the defense call him? Will they be the only ones to call him? Will they be the only ones to call him? And I'm going to have a guest on tonight, Mark Bederow, who I was listening to the other night on STS. And maybe he can explain to me, because I don't get it, the advantage that, like, apparently it's an advantage to have Proctor on cross than it is for him to be your witness. And I don't know why, and maybe I can learn about that tonight. So with that said, again, if anyone else wants to donate, I will check kind of periodically throughout the show. I don't want to interrupt too much and have their message read. You can click at the link at the top for Turtle Chat, or you can cash at me at $Uncle_Turtleboy. So here's the deal. Tonight I have 3 guests because I'm like, there's been no new footage to go over, right? Like we've done Higgins, we've Higgins to death. I'm not listening to those doctors. I don't want to bore you to sleep. We listened to 𝗪𝗏 the other day, the IT guy, and we listened to Trotta, the DPW guy, who was like, yes, I finally have a captive audience who has to listen to me talk about plowing and just how we sand the roads. And yes, I've been fucking dying to make people, every time I talk to people about sanding, they're just like, oh, fuck, this guy's talking about sanding again. And now they have to listen to me talk about sanding the roads. And he's just so fucking happy. He looked so happy on that stand. But anyway, so yeah, we got nothing new. So what I'm going to do tonight is I decided to have a panel, and I told them, gave them a homework assignment ahead of time. And what I wanted to discuss was what 3 witnesses they are most looking forward to hearing from, and what they think the 3 most consequential things that have happened in this trial are. Like, what are the 3? What witness testimony did you find most compelling, most interesting? I can't wait for the blooper reel when this all ends. I'm not gonna lie. Like, before we came on, I was watching Alan Jackson and Colin Albert again. That's my favorite. Like, that is my favorite, when Alan Jackson it's just like, yeah, what'd you say? You said I'm gonna fuck you up, right? You want to come over so I can fuck you up, right? I don't know. I just think that's so funny. But anyway, so our 3 guests tonight, we have Brian LTL. You guys have known, I've been on his show, vice versa, before. We have 𝗿𝗏𝗆. Everybody knows him. Vice versa. I've been on his many times before. And I having attorney Mark Bederow on, who I've never been on with before. I watched him the other night on Surviving the Survivor, which is like a true crime podcast that I was briefly on last August, just to yell at Wendy Murphy. And I haven't been back on since, because that was kind of an infamous episode. But yeah, we're going to bring them all on now. All right. And hello, everyone.
How are you?
How's it going?
I'm good, thanks. How are you guys doing?
Fantastic.
Good.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know about you guys. I feel like I'm fiending for more content without any of these witnesses going on this week. Anybody have any idea who the next witness is going to be?
I heard a rumor that it might be 𝗏𝗏𝗆, but
oh, really?
I don't know. Yeah, but we'll see.
Eventually, they're going to have to bring.
I'm not going to get my hopes up, you know.
So eventually, they're going to have to bring some state police in. But so here's the deal. Brian and Will have been on here many times before. But Mark, tell us a little bit about yourself for the followers who haven't watched before.
Well, I've been practicing criminal law in New York for 25 years. I spent first about 6 years of my career at the Manhattan DA's office, and I've been in private practice since. So certainly have familiarity with what's going on here, how cases are tried. Have handled all kinds of cases, murder cases, whatnot, a lot of high profile cases, a lot of complex cases. So this is what I do. So it's an interesting case for me. I'm from Massachusetts, so that kind of piqued my interest. And, I can certainly add some expertise and analysis. So that's what I've been doing.
Yeah. So when did you first find out about this case? Because you just made your appearance recently on Twitter. I started seeing you. You've been going on the Young Jerks a lot. When did you get into this case?
Well, I mean, I heard about it when it happened. I mean, I read the Globe sports, not much else in the Globe, but every now and then the Metro, and saw this. It was interesting. Followed it for maybe the first year casually. Was more interested in some of the legal stuff going on with the DA's office more than who anybody was. I didn't know anything factually other than what the allegations were, who Karen Reed was, a few other people. In terms of getting interested in it recently, it's all Wendy Murphy's fault, ironically. So,
why? What happened? So
somebody I know very well said, you've got to see these tweets by this idiot lawyer. And they were offensive. I mean, beyond just being dumb and wrong, they were offensive. She would post about presumptions of guilt and how if she doesn't testify, that's a sign that she and her lawyers know she's guilty, and everybody knows she's guilty, and the jury should presume her guilty. And so I just started responding to her. That lasted about a couple days before, after calling me an idiot and a moron, and she just ended up blocking me. So
that's how it usually goes.
Well, that led me to do a little research. I couldn't help myself. Who is this woman? And in 5 minutes, I found out that she had been sanctioned by 2 federal courts, at least 2 federal courts, ironically enough, for filing frivolous litigation, making false representations, and those sort of things. Exactly the kind of thing that she's been doing online. So that caught some people's attention, because I didn't know about what you guys had all been through her, and about how just, what I call Wendy world and all of that. That got me invited on something. And I said, all right, I'll actually now dig into why are all these loonies and just very strange people into this thing. And so I just kept digging and digging in my free time. It probably takes me not as much time to get up to speed as others, again, just because, it's what I do. And the more I saw, the more I was shocked at just how awful the case is. And again, with the focus on law enforcement and the DA's office, I can't believe what they're doing here.
Have you seen the tape of when I went on with Wendy on Survivor by any chance?
I have. Yeah, no, I mean, I researched her, and that's the one where she's kind of gesticulating and
it's like, I didn't know who she was either. And she started tweeting out some crazy shit. And I'm like, I saw she was a lawyer, and then I looked her up, and I'm like, okay, and then I was on Court TV last August, and then they had her on right after me. I'm like, this woman's on TV. She was tweeting like Court TV. Just anyone, it seems, can get on that channel. It's interesting. Like 𝗂𝗏𝗄𝗏 is on there. 𝗂𝗏𝗄𝗏 is fucking just makes everything up. It's just completely full of shit.
The worst thing I saw about her is when I found out that she was literally a Duke lacrosse truther.
No, that's Wendy Murphy. That's Wendy Murphy.
No, I know.
Yeah.
FBI lady is a whole nother story. But when I saw, just going back to Wendy, that she literally was advocating for the DA down in Durham, North Carolina, who went to jail, by the way,
for one night.
Well, he got sentenced to 30 days, but I don't know how much time he actually did. And, defending the alleged victim in that case, who actually went to prison, I believe, for murder.
She's in jail right now for murder.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
And she continued to defend that. And then I dug a little deeper, and, there are these legal blogs that lawyers and nobody else reads. And there are many stories about her and just how outlandish she is and how crazy she is. And the last thing is, then when I found out who her child was and all the things that are going on with him, like
it made so much sense.
It writes
like the Duke lacrosse thing. Like a lot of people in 2007 or whenever that happened jumped on that train because it was the new thing but it's kind of gone down as like one of the greatest hoaxes of all time. Mm-hmm. And I didn't think anybody still believed in it, and she still stands by that. Like
she absolutely, part of our back and forth was,
how has she not been sued for defamation? Like, she said that those 3 players were molested as children. That's why they that's why they raped this woman. That's what she said.
I listen, she's a disgrace to my profession. I don't know what else there is to say. I've said it all.
All right. So anyway, before we get started, I just want to play one part of your thing on STS the other night that stood out to me most. So there was 2 other guests with you, and you had one. So this guy, I believe he's retired Mass State Police, right?
Yeah, his name is Todd. I actually found him very interesting. Yeah, I think his name is Todd McGee.
And this guy was retired FBI.
Correct.
Okay. And I want to play. So I have a problem with something this guy said, and I'm just going to play it right now.
He says he never, ever buys ever into these conspiracy theories, 1 in a trillion. But he says with this particular case, he himself, he doesn't know what's going on, but something is being covered up. Are you starting to feel that way at all?
No, I don't think that way. I think I've mentioned before, I don't think the prosecutor is doing a good job. In every trial I've been in, If I wasn't the first witness, I was the second witness.
All right, so right away, I so far I agree with him. We all agree that the prosecutor is doing a bad job, right?
Well, I think look,
yeah,
he started out with acknowledging that the DA, and I've been very critical of him. He's the worst prosecutor I've ever seen on a serious case.
Have you seen Ken Mello?
Well, I'm familiar with who he is.
Okay.
But
okay.
Look, I saw an opening statement in this case, and that vaulted him to the top. But then he also started talking about how crazy it was that Proctor had not testified, and he's correct. So I certainly agree with you that in the beginning of what he was saying, I certainly agreed with him. Yeah. But it kind of went a little different from there.
Yeah. So let me play the rest. And again, we could talk about Lally in a little bit, but I'm interested in your perspective on him. But what he says after this is just really telling, and I think problematic of policing in general.
I was the lead case agent, and you want to set the story straight. You want that lead investigator on the stand and say, "Here's our evidence," and then you fill in. You don't have to go in chronological order. And I feel as if this prosecutor is going step by step by step, and it puts him in a hole. I think both Mark and said it first. It's like they're in a hole. And I agree. I think you get that lead investigator up so that way you can kind of show, here is our evidence. And now then let's fill in some holes, put in some more evidence. So you keep the jury engaged, you keep the jury going.
Actually,
listen, at the end of the day, do I think she hit him? Yes, I do. Do I think she meant it? Who knows? She was drunk. He was drunk. They were all drinking. I think we have quite a bit of issues here with, as you said, you're a fellow trooper. You don't want to say anything bad about a fellow trooper. I don't want to say anything bad about a fellow law enforcement officer unless they're really bad. The perception is horrible here. You were good friends with this family and you didn't recuse yourself. So to me, at the end of the day, that's where, to me, I look at the defense attorney, and as Mark said, he doesn't have to prove anything because he just has to show reasonable doubt. I can see, to me, where I look at everything the defense attorney is doing and they're creating that reasonable doubt because, to me, the way I say that is they're throwing things up on the wall like spaghetti on a wall to see what sticks by saying, oh, it was Brian Higgins. No, it was this person. Oh, 3 different people could have killed him. To me, that's where I don't believe in the conspiracy. But it's not up just because I know this based on what I've seen. It doesn't mean anything, right? I can say that I can know somebody did something, but if I can't prove it beyond a reasonable doubt, it doesn't matter. And that's where the issue is here. Is
Jeff, what's making you at this point, Jeff? What is making you believe that Karen Reed hit him?
Here we go.
Just based on conversations I had with people beforehand, that I know troopers. I worked with troopers for 20 years on the gang unit. I know the troopers. So when I have troopers saying, "Hey, look, she did it," I believe them. But just because of that information, when I look at the fact patterns, based on what I see,
there's that quote stuck with me right there. I talked to troopers.
I see where you're going with
that. And when they said that they did it, like I believe them. I think that comment right there is everything that's wrong with policing. What do you guys think?
Go ahead, guys.
Yeah. I said this on my show the other night. I think that I'm sorry. I said this the other night.
No, please.
There's bad people in every profession, and I think it's just this whole stigma that people have that there's no bad law enforcement officers out there. If we're in this brotherhood together, we all stick together. There's no one that can be bad in an industry. There's bad people in every industry. We see it in construction and policing and lawyers and whatever it may be. I just don't know why everybody's so afraid to call that out. And maybe that's because it is law enforcement and we're supposed to trust them and all these other things, but it does happen. Corruption happens. I mean, it's
the only profession where other people in your profession proudly stand by you no matter how much of a shitbag you are. Like Mark was just railing on Wendy Murphy. She's an attorney. He's an attorney. But he's like, she's a fucking disgrace to attorneys. I want, you know what I mean? It's just like, how come, I was a teacher. There was a couple teachers that got accused of some shit with kids, like nasty shit. And it's like, couldn't wait to distance myself from those ones. Nope. No, fuck those guys. Whereas policing, it's like, yeah, no, I believe them because we're cops, What do you think, Will? Yeah. Anything to add? What do you think?
Well, this guy, as soon as he says, just based on conversations I've had with troopers, about this, it's like, okay, well, automatically you're telling me that you're biased without telling me that you're biased. Because the common sense, I mean, if anybody, this is what always trips me out about, like, and I know that's not a court TV panel, but a lot of people, like, every time there's a panel on court TV, it's usually a bunch of people, like the attorneys that they have or ex-law enforcement. They don't know anything about the case at all. So they're just throwing, they haven't done any research on it whatsoever.
Like, do you think that guy knew what has researched the case? Like,
no, I don't. That's my point. That's the point I'm taking too long to get. But yeah, I mean, the thing is all it takes, you can, ever since I started following this case and really looking at the documents, really looking at the witness statements, I was like realizing this more and more and more. At the very least, even if Karen Read did it, like, there's no way they're going to get a conviction. Like, the investigation was done all wrong. And I'm not an investigator. I'm not an attorney, but I've followed enough cases, looked over enough court documents, looked over enough witness statements, looked over enough affidavits and police reports and all kinds of things. And everything is wrong with this in comparison to every other case that I've ever followed. And all it takes is doing maybe an hour of looking at it and going, there's no way. Like, why is this going to trial? It makes no sense that this is going to trial at this point.
Yeah, and we've seen it, how it's played out. You're like, the whole world is watching this. And that's the most common comment I see from neutral people who are just getting into this. They're like, how the fuck did this make this to trial? Like, this is, have you ever seen a case like this, Mark, before?
No, this is next level bad. And I just would go one step further. I mean, I've been critical in saying, obviously, the case shouldn't be going to trial, but I would go back farther in time. This case never should have been indicted. Now, obviously, in the early stages of this, Karen Read would be a prime suspect. There's nothing wrong with that, given what was happening around that time, and the same way people in the house would have been normal people would talk to them and figure out what's going on. So I wouldn't even tell you that having suspicion of her and trying to get to the car and look at it. I mean, if she said, did I hit him? Did I hit him? That should encourage police officers to say, what does that mean? What are you talking about? See what's going on. So even if they had made an arrest, which I'm not saying they should have right away, I might give them a pass for that. But there comes a point in time, the case isn't over after you make an arrest. You have months and months of investigation and what are you doing? And the reality is, as we saw a week or two ago, they were more interested in interviewing girls who went to Aruba rather than they were talking to people who happened to have the misfortune of owning the home where a dead police officer was found, and they just happened to be a dead police officer and his family and so-called Canton royalty, who all also are doing really weird things and have this, for lack of a better term, incestuous relationship with the police in town. And so how that can't stick out as a sore thumb to say, maybe we should go a little deeper. And there's a million things investigatively that either weren't done or were done improperly. I mean, if you remember the testimony in the beginning of this trial, the local cops create some half-ass crappy crime scene. They claim it's the best they can do, whatever. They call the state police. We have a dead police officer on the lawn of another dead police officer. And if you recall, the testimony was the state police, we're not coming. So these guys look at each other and shrug their shoulders and leave. And by leaving, what they did is basically ensure that no one may ever get convicted for this crime, because they abandoned the crime scene at 8 a.m. and it's forever tampered. It's gone. You've lost the crime scene. You've completely, so the integrity of the scene,
done.
that's right. So anything that's found on the lawn, who knows, or snow, whatever it is, how does it get there? You don't know. We don't know that they did any serious effort to get ring cameras from across the street.
No, they didn't. Both houses across the street had rings. You just knocked on the door and asked for them.
That fact is not getting enough attention, because if you think that even the local Canton stumbling cops who probably should be looking for other work, whether they're corrupt in this case or not, if it never occurred to them to do the most basic thing in law enforcement called a canvas, go look for something. The expression is detective, go detect something.
It's
That's
the first thing that they normally do is
thing you
canvass
do.
the neighborhood.
And
for
they
sure.
should have been looking at the guy's ring camera right away. It would have shown something or not. But what they did do was go across the street to what, a lieutenant to get solo cups?
Solo cups. And by the way, he had a ring camera.
Okay.
I went to both of their homes across the street. I took a video from the position of the homes. It would have captured the house at 33 Fairview would have captured perfectly where Ryan Nagel's car was. And so you would have seen John running into the house if he did.
So
the camera 31 would have captured the actual crash if it happened.
But they also got these solo cups from a high-ranking police officer, is my understanding, who doesn't say, guys, what's going on? Oh, nothing. A little snow and a dead Boston police officer on Albert's lawn. You interested to see what's going on? Take the solo cups and what? He goes back to bed. Did he look at the ring camera himself? Why is this man not a witness? I don't know.
That's a great question. That's a great
if
question.
I were the defense, I'm calling him.
Yeah, that's odd. He's not on the list.
I'm calling him and I'm asking him, did the cops come to your house? And he'll say, they asked me for solo cups. Did you tell them you had a ring camera? And if the answer is no, well, that's sketchy as hell. If he has a ring camera and he knows it shows the Albert's house, did he look at his ring camera? I mean, how does a lieutenant not look at his ring camera where there's, even after the fact, when he knows that there's a hit and run that allegedly occurred in direct view of that
or at least offer it up? I mean, I gotta say that when I was on the fence briefly about the difference between, okay, like, is this negligence? Is this a negligent investigation or is it corruption? Like the fence between negligence and corruption, what made me go over the fence into corruption being my opinion is how much negligence does it take before you get to the point to where it's, you know what I mean? Like there's everything that's named is a drop in the bucket. Everything that went wrong with this case seems to have been wrong.
So many coincidences that you would have to accept, even just to give them the benefit of the doubt of being negligent, which, by the way, it's still a bad investigation. She still gets acquitted, even if they're negligent, but not corrupt. But I'm sorry, but a fifth grade student who arrived at that scene and you said, what do you think we should do? Would say, well, why don't we go knock on the door across the street and see if they knew anything? And these investigators never did that, whether they're from Canton or the state police. They didn't secure a crime scene. They used the stop and shop and solo bags. There's missing video in at least, 3 locations, a Sallyport video that's gone, the library video, and the ring video from O'Keefe's house, which after, a week or two ago in court, you're now more inclined to believe might have been another police example of deleting something they didn't want seen rather than what a lot of yahoos were suggesting online that she probably did it. But I think the children took care of that.
And how about the fact that Michael Proctor, in one paragraph, in one thing alone, spelt the names of all 5 witnesses wrong. All 5 girls who were in that house, including the town manager, Duty's son. So like it's on yard signs and stuff in town. You can't miss it. Duty. It's a funny name. And he spelt it wrong. And he spelt Caitlin Albert wrong. And he spelt all their names wrong. And it's like, this is not it's like, I've talked to a lot of cops about it, and they're like, spelling is really important with names in police reports. And it's just like, it's little shit like that where you're like, this is intentional. They did not speak with Colin Albert. The fact that Colin Albert was there at any point in the night was never mentioned by police ever. He was not interviewed until July of 2023. And that was about me. They interviewed him about like, is Turtleboy being mean to you? Like, do you feel intimidated by him? Like, and so like, they didn't speak with Sarah Levinson. They didn't speak with Juliana Nagel until 9 months later when they suddenly needed someone to say that they saw something on the lawn. They needed someone to say something.
But that's also another tell and fascinating, the Juliana Nagel thing, because she's apparently put Colin Albert aside for a minute. She's of no interest to them on their radar. 9 months, we have no reason to speak to her. Then they speak to her and then they learn a funny thing. Oh my God, there was, I think it went from object to blob to 5 foot long human being looking object in the span of a few months. And then by the time they, bring her into court, the story more.
No, the black blob started in court.
Right.
Prior to that,
it was a
shadowy figure. It was a
shadowy thing, the object, the black blob that looked like a human being that was exactly 6'2" or whatever she said, but then she also just very nonchalantly says, oh yeah, later Jennifer McCabe said, I need to borrow your phone and get your messages. What the hell is that all about? What possible explanation other than for all of these weird texts and things going on would there be for her to have to look at this girl's phone, who was a nobody to the police, but then by the time she testifies in trial is essentially establishing that, John O'Keefe was on the lawn.
Because her brother Ryan was the problem. Every loose end was tied up, except they couldn't. Ryan Nagel was the problem. Ryan Nagel showing up and telling the truth about what he saw was a problem for their story, because he said that no one was inside or outside of the car, and that's problematic for them, because where else would he be but not inside the house?
To this day, I'm still scratching my head wondering why he called those three kids from outside, Ryan, his then girlfriend, and the other guy, because if he thinks that helps his case,
he thinks it helps the case because all three of them said, like, did you see John go in the house? And they all said no. That's why he thinks it helps their case, because they didn't see him go in.
But how does it help the car accident that they need to convict her when it's kind of a bigger problem than they didn't see John O'Keefe, who maybe was in the house. Maybe he saw, I don't know, but in order for this car accident to happen in the timeline they need, and he's saying, I see her just standing there and then she drives away or whatever it was. Well, that's kind of a case killer, isn't it?
You would think so, but a lot of things would be case killers. Like I thought How Long to Die in Cold was a case killer, but apparently not. And we'll go back to, like, it's what I've always said this about this case. It's not what they did do. It's not the planting of the tail. Like that was the only actual action I saw that I know that they did that was problematic, but it's what they didn't do. So last June, I decided, I'm like, there's got to be hundreds of homes that Karen Reed went by that would show the state of her taillight, and normal policing would track down these ring cameras. The district attorney's office actually puts out a thing regularly asking people, check your ring cameras, blah, 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 if you've seen anything. And so they didn't do that. So I decided to just drive down the path of Karen Reed's midnight ride. And I found houses that had ring cameras, and I went up to them and I just did what's called investigating or journalism. I don't know what you call this, but I was curious for answers. And I found a house that had a ring camera on it that was probably like 200 yards from the library, and I rang the doorbell, and I went, they asked me for my ID. They were going to talk to me, but they wanted ID. So I come back and I ring the guy's doorbell. Are you still there?
More police work than they did.
Yeah. I know.
Okay, what is it you need to know now?
So I was just wondering, did the state police ever come by here and ask for ring camera footage from the morning of January 29th, 2022?
No, they haven't.
They haven't. Okay, that's literally all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Case closed. Case closed.
This is what cops call canvassing. That's what they do, or in this case, don't do.
It's in the top three things to do first.
Like that guy's house had a perfect view of the road that she would have driven right by. And if they really wanted to get her on a murder and they truly believed that taillight was shattered to pieces, they just go get that guy's ring camera and they'd arrest her. It would be so easy.
I was going to say, or better this, Aiden, just give us the video. The Commonwealth opens with the statement, and their opening statement, they say, we're going to show you how Karen Reed killed John O'Keefe. Bam, here's the video. Case over.
That's how it's normally done.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, I wanted to talk to you guys. Who do you think, I'll start with Brian. Who are your top three witnesses who have not gone yet that you're most looking forward to hearing from moving forward?
Yeah, I think the obvious is Proctor.
Okay.
Maybe Michael Morrissey. And then obviously I want to hear the defense if they're going to have I'm sure they are, a crash reconstructionist and a celebrate expert. I'm sure they're going to have those up there, I would think. But I think obviously Proctor, I want him to start answering questions about falsifying the records, documentations, the evidence, everything that encompasses that. You got to look at 𝗏𝗏𝗆 and say, what do you have to say about Proctor's work in this case? Because obviously that's his immediate boss. And then Morrissey, going back to Colin Albert, And I find this interesting. After they interviewed you and talked to you about Colin, you had 𝗵𝗫cy that came out, what, in August, and released that video and said 3 times in that video, that statement, that Colin Albert was not inside the house. Why would he push that angle, and why would he continue to push that angle?
You know why he's pushing that angle? Because I'm out here saying he was.
Right.
That's why. It's like he's upset. He's like that child was not a child. He's a grown up. Like, I don't think he has any freaking clue, based on the grand jury testimony he gave in my case, how fucking protected he is. Like the amount of powerful people that are going out of their way to be like, no, Colin was not there. I think he's completely you saw him on the stand. Does he seem like a kid that has any fucking clue the stakes of any of this shit?
No, not at all.
I don't know. Nope is the correct answer. Nope.
Let me just add something about 𝗵𝗫cy. The likelihood that he'll be allowed to be called as a witness is going to be real low. I agree with what Brian's saying, just in terms of intellectually trying to get there. But, you know, you try to get that through Proctor, or you try to get it through other witnesses. And certainly Proctor could be asked, did you tell, you know, what about the issue with his relationship? Because in that same ridiculous press conference, which was totally unethical, by the way, that violates, I think, 10 different provisions of, no, I've actually gone over this before.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so inappropriate.
Well, it violates a whole bunch of shit, but what's the consequence of it?
The consequences are that if somebody files a disciplinary complaint against him, in theory, the disciplinary committee, which I think in Massachusetts is the board of bar exam, look, I'm in New York, it's a little different, but the same idea. The people who just govern attorneys, you know, you could be sanctioned, you could be censured. Obviously, the worst punishment is disbarment. That would not happen for this. But just to stay on point, the part of that press conference that was unethical about Proctor was how he was adamant that Proctor had no knowledge or relationship of anyone involved in the case, which is factually, unequivocally, excuse me, untrue. We know that. So
it makes it a lie.
Yes, I was trying to be more diplomatic.
Yeah.
I was trying to be more diplomatic. But anyway, if you confront Proctor with that, and you know, did you tell that to 𝗵𝗫cy, and are you aware that he stood up in front of the whole county and gave this thing? And what did you tell him? And sheepishly go back to him and tell him it wasn't true. If he denies that, at some point it could become relevant, which is why 𝗵𝗫cy said that. And now you want to know and put him up there and have him explain where the hell he got that information from. But in this, you know, it takes a few steps to get there. And just to be candid, given the way this judge is, I'd say the odds of that are pretty slim.
Real quick, Mark, why if they were to get, say the defense did get Proctor on the stand, could they ask him about his internal affairs investigation, or is that kind of off limits?
She's kind of, I think she kind of punted it. I don't know if they're going to literally be able to get into that at, you know, literally, are you under investigation for internal affairs? But you can't.
It has to naturally present itself. Like the door has to open, in her words.
Well,
as I understand it,
if that's allowed to happen, they're going to find a way to open.
It's a little different. I mean, I think she's not going to let them say literally, are you under investigation for this and that? But the conduct of the inappropriate relationship, and were you aware that, you know, you shouldn't have been doing that? And as it relates to this discussion about gifts, that, and then, you know, he says, buy my wife something, or something to that effect. I mean, you can impeach him for bias and misconduct. I mean, that's always going to be permissible. I think just classifying it as resulting in an IAB investigation will probably be off limits. But of course, he's so bad that that's like problem 10 out of 10 for him. He's got much bigger problems, I would think, that he's got. I mean, he's got real legal issues, as you know, as relates to his text messages that he sent, where he basically admitted that he illegally searched Karen Reed's phone. Well, that's admitting that he violated her civil rights, that he searched for all these pictures, that he was doing all these things. I mean, he's admitting federal crimes by doing that. He's admitting civil rights violations, civil violations that could get, you know, the state police sued and himself sued. So he's got, I think, much bigger problems, even just in, you know, his IAB stuff. I don't think his career is going to be going on for much longer when this is over.
I just don't know if like he's still on the job. Like he's still doing murders and shit. Like it's
well,
crazy.
that's just crazy. If the guy had a shred of dignity, he would resign. He's not fit to be a police officer.
Why would he resign? Like, why would you give up a pension? And, you know,
well, because he's probably is going to get canned when this is all over at some point.
So?
I mean, well, right now
somebody's going to have to fall on their sword.
I don't know, man.
There's no evidence yet about the text messages he sent or anything else he did. I mean, at some point, he's going to have to acknowledge that. It's all going to come out, as well as everything he didn't do right in this case. And I think the inference will be clear by the time the defense sums up in this case that it was intentional and you didn't want to do that. And you were more focused on the relationships and the Alberts and this. And I don't know how the state police, which already has, you know, a pretty poor reputation for other things in Massachusetts, I don't know how he can survive. I just don't see it.
Well, it's just like the fact that he's not the one keeping him on the job. The brass is, his bosses are. Yeah. But like 𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏 is his boss, and then 𝗃𝗏𝗏 is his boss, and then don't tell me the colonel isn't paying attention to all this and knows all this, and they're still putting him on murder. Like Michael Proctor doesn't assign himself to cases.
I think when you see this play out and he's on the front page of the Boston Herald, like some of these other ones have been, and there's more discussion, and then the acquittal happens, and then the aftermath of the acquittal happens, I think he's going to be cooked.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, this is a murder. Like, this is a Boston cop that's dead. And if the woman that they charged gets acquitted, that has to be seen as a massive failure of the police because of their own incompetence. Their own incompetence is what ultimately is going to be their downfall here. Let's suppose she actually fucking did it, right? Even if she did do it, which she didn't, even if she did do it, just the police fuck ups alone in this is enough to get the guiltiest person in the world off. Is it not?
The problem is every time, you know, obviously there's an investigation into a death of a police officer, that in every police department in America, that's all hands on deck. We're going to solve it. I mean, there should have been 800 cops at
this case,
at Albert's house that morning. I mean, that's a dead police officer. And the reality is they did have all hands on deck in this case for the cops. They were the wrong cops. It was the Albert types, not the good cop who was lying dead on their lawn, who got treated as just nothing more than the guy, as they said privately. You know, they talk about him in court as their close friend, but when they're talking privately amongst themselves about how are we going to, you know, sell a good public image and all this, at that point you saw their true colors. He's just the guy on the lawn who never came in the house.
Well, back to what that guy was saying on SDS. And my point with that was his comment was so telling because, you know, I have friends in the state police who have told me that, like, if they were to poll most state troopers, at least over 50% of them would say Karen Read is guilty. Like most of them say Karen Read is guilty. And I think that's the problem, right? Is that, like, you have to me, you have to be fucking brain dead, like a retarded toddler to think that, I mean, come on. I mean, we don't even have to get into all the evidence. We know it all. It's like, look at the freaking autopsy photos. Just look at them. That car didn't do that. Stop it. This is absurd. This is ridiculous that we're doing this. And that there are the police, the institutions that we are supposed to trust, that over 50% of them will go along with this farce. Why? Because they refuse to, like, because they have that guy's mentality. The police told me that she did it, so she did it, and that is a much bigger problem that's going to remain after the Karen Read thing is done. A much bigger problem that needs to get rotted out. I don't know how you correct that, but it is a fucking real problem in our society when police think like that.
I'll tell you how you correct it, and it's kind of sort of happening, although you don't know it to what level. You have a federal investigation by the United States Attorney's Office that looks into corruption. They're not looking at a murder case. I mean, look, you can't divorce yourself from it. It's part and parcel of what's going on. But the feds don't, you know, they don't bring murder cases unless it's involved in something different. That's a state crime. They're looking at official corruption in whether it be Canton Police, the state police, whether it be the Norfolk County DA's office, whether it involve obstruction of justice of, you know, the Alberts and McCabe's and Higgins and that sort of thing. But that's what the federal thing is going to be. That's going to be a corruption investigation. And if something happens with that, that may be the answer. That
I don't know. I'm down on the federal investigation.
Oh, I don't know what's going to happen, but that would be what it is.
Mark, what, can you just explain a little bit and just clarify a little bit? I know a lot of people were watching the Higgins testimony the other day, and like people going, why is he not being handcuffed and escorted out in handcuffs? Maybe he basically admitted on the stand that he broke federal laws. So
Higgins isn't he of all the witnesses who have testified so far, I would say right now at this moment, if you're keeping score at home, is the most in the crosshairs for federal prosecution. And I'm not even talking about his little trip to the FBI so his buddy could play with his cell phone and tell him how to extract messages. He did something that I'm at a loss for words, because I could not fathom that he was actually this dumb, but he demonstrated that he was. So when he was being asked by Yannetti,
was it text a woman, tricks her for kids? Was that it? Maybe?
it was
right,
when no he when he was asked if he scrubbed his phone before he dumped it. And he said, no, I don't think so. No, I didn't. And, do you remember talking to the feds, and they put a piece of paper in his face? Well, if you know what's going on, that paper is going to be what's called an FBI 302. That's his interview that he gave with the FBI. And when the FBI interviews someone, they have more than one agent, and somebody there is nothing but a note taker, and they write everything. They type it up that day, and it is verbatim, word for word, as close as it can get. And they show him in the report, and he comes back and he says, I didn't tell them that. Basically confirming that the FBI agent wrote down, he told us he scrubbed the phone. Then he was never even asked a follow-up question, and he volunteers, and he says, I never told him about the text messages that I also downloaded from my father. So he's caught in essentially, he what he testified under oath at the trial is entirely different from what he told the FBI, and it's a federal crime to lie to the FBI as long as it's material as part of an investigation. And I would certainly think that a false statement related to disposing and scrubbing your phone in an official investigation counts as being material. So what Higgins should have done was brought his lawyer with him on Monday instead of Friday. I'm not sure what happened.
Well, his lawyer just let him say all that shit. It's like, I'm going to, all he needed is 10 seconds with him. He said, maybe you needed a little bit longer. Maybe you needed a little bit longer.
22. He needed 22
seconds was too long.
22 seconds, yeah.
You can get a lot done in 22
or
seconds.
Sorry, wasn't long enough. Excuse me. Sorry, 22 seconds wasn't long enough, but 10 seconds was plenty with his lawyer to get advice.
So Will is locked in on like provable false statements. The other ones, there you have to like suspend disbelief, and you have to hear what the cell phone evidence like before you get to McCabe and all that. They're not going to just prosecute her because they think she's full of shit. They want to make sure. But
yeah, how is the Jen McCabe thing not enough? Like, to me, that like they got Brian Walsh on Google searches. That is the most incriminating fucking Google search I've ever heard.
Well, it is. I mean,
and they determined it happened. So why has she not been arrested?
Well, because it hasn't been officially determined. I mean,
I think they're building a case. I think they're using the trial to be part of their case that they're building.
In all fairness to these people, I mean, the DA has an expert that they're supposedly going to call who's going to attempt to, for the first time in history, on behalf of a prosecutor's office, explain why Celebrite records are not reliable.
And who does he work for? Who does he work for?
I got to tell you, I mean, if you have one DA in that office in courtroom A saying Celebrite records don't work and you shouldn't rely on this, and they've got some other DA in courtroom B down the hall saying the exact same thing, and you live in Norfolk County, you might want to question who you vote for the next time there's an election for DA, because this is like a freaking circus.
It's just crazy to and somebody made a comment about this the other day, and I tweeted out, I'm like, that's such a good fucking point. This guy works for Celebrite, Ian Whiffen. His job, according to what the district attorney's office wants him to do, is get up there and say Celebrite doesn't work. Like these reports that are so official, they're not so official.
I think what he's probably going, and again, we're speculating here, but you're right. He's not going to come in and say that can't be. I think what he's going to come in, almost like sometimes when you get medical testimony, that he's going to say, well, it could be this or it could be that, which is a joke.
If it could be, then it doesn't work.
I agree.
It doesn't work. That's what that means.
If the prosecution in this case is the one speculating that could be, and they have the burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt to a moral certainty, then what Lally needs.
But what 𝗪𝗿 doesn't sell could be. 𝗪𝗿 sells. This is what it is. Like any fucking they must have competitors.
No. What I'm saying is, I think
I have a prediction, but go ahead.
I was just going to say that he said, well, it could be at 6, it could be at 2. I can't tell. The other problem, real quick, and then I want to hear what you have to say, is the guy for the defense, my understanding, used a updated and better version of multiple softwares, which is going to be more reliable. And then the real point is this is a common sense thing. This has nothing to do with 𝗪𝗿 technology, which again, I agree with you. How are you going to attack this? Is when you look at the deletions that are in play here, the only thing deleted are the stuff that occur during the time where it's like, oh shit, oh shit. Right. And then when the cops come the second time, when McCabe has to call Lank back, notice like starting at 9 o'clock, nothing else.
Nothing gets deleted. Yeah.
Okay, I don't need a 𝗪𝗿 guy to tell me what's going on right there. And then when you have all the text,
well, she said she didn't delete anything.
Okay, right, of course. So it just auto deleted itself, but stopped. Here comes Lank, stop the auto delete, and then it all picks up again in the next couple of days when they're talking about when they send Matthew McCabe to, snoop around and spy on the cops and send messages about, they're on the Asian guy's lawn and they're digging, but they're in the wrong place. All of those messages, nobody challenges. They're all real. You look at the guys like Brian Albert and Higgins, they're not disputing anything other than saying, well, they're all butt dials. It's just a butt dial. And you have a situation where they're not just butt dials, but you have a guy claiming that he's being intimate with his wife at 2:22 a.m. and he somehow butt dials his good friend.
But answered. Oh, yeah.
He butt dials his friend. Nobody answers it. But by some miracle, 1 minute later, his friend butt dials him back.
And he butt answered
for 22 seconds.
It's
that's
statistically impossible.
That's not a 𝗪𝗿 problem. That's a perjury problem.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
It's literally statistically impossible.
Yeah, I think one of the witnesses that I'm really looking forward to is the 𝗪𝗿 expert that the prosecution is going to bring.
Absolutely, that was on my list. Sure.
And it's for the same reasons as everybody else, because of cross. And what's going to happen is they are going to the Commonwealth. Lally's going to sit there and go through this whole song and dance over how the 634 search happened and the one right after that happened, and they're going to go into this whole song and dance about that, and then they're just not going to mention that the 227 search didn't happen. They're going to conveniently leave that out, hoping it's going to confuse the jury. But of course, Jackson or Yannetti or Little are going to cross-examine and ask, can you definitively say that the 2:27 a.m. search did not happen? And they're going to say no. I promise you that.
And they're going to have another huge problem that's going to go beyond the 𝗪𝗿 person, which is, they're not calling that one female trooper that wasn't on.
Kathleen Prince.
Thank you.
Yes.
And she's on the defense list, and it's obvious why. When somebody lies out of whole cloth, like Jennifer McCabe appears to do, I mean, one of the worst witnesses I've ever seen in my life.
You think she was bad? You agree she was bad?
I would tell you, all kidding aside, in 25 years of watching this kind of stuff, she's top 3 or 5 most awful witness I've ever seen. When you factor in demeanor, common sense, credibility, everything. Yeah,
because according to the McAlbert Mafia, she slayed. She killed it. Like this, we're living in 2 different realities here.
Look, they don't really seem to have much self-awareness, and that would probably be another example of that. No, she was terrible. I mean, she for 100 reasons, which I'm sure we could go on. But on this point,
tell me some of them.
Let me finish this point, because before I forget, when she was talking about the Google search, which she claimed happened at 6 whatever in the morning, she did what a lot of liars do. They try to give so much detail to make it sound It has to be true. So she overcorrected. So she put it in the police car as the ambulance is leaving, you know, as we're holding hands, praying, all of this detail, which doesn't take a genius to unpack, because the car would have a dash camera and the Google search has to be at an exact time, because the Celebrite is right at 6 o'clock. That one's right, according to them.
Yeah, they don't dispute that.
So if you can fix her location by any of these dash cams or any other event going on at that time and say, okay, does it match with what she's saying? And it doesn't, then you know she's full of shit. But
well, she was under shock and horror. It was the shock and horror of the situation.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. It's like, do you think the fact that she really came on like fuck you, Alan Jackson? You've put my
very combative,
and I am just ready. I've been waiting for my chance to tell you to go fuck yourself. Excuse me, sir. John was my friend. She always fell back on that. Whenever she was like backed into a corner, she's like, we were experiencing shock and horror because our good friend was dead. Yeah. Like,
well, the looking at the jury is interesting. So a lot of people are just against the whole idea of a witness ever looking at a jury. And I'm not on principle, as long as you're making normal eye contact around the room and you look at the jury. The problem with her is when threatened and when under the stress of whatever, you know, they fall back into their knee jerk, looking at the jury and saying all these terrible things. And those were really the only
and then played victim. That's when she was cornered, Turtle Boy comes up. It's pointing fingers at Jackson. And Jackson goes, I didn't do anything. I don't know what you're talking about. And then she went, oh, Turtle Boy. And
she did not want to mention me. Like, she did not. Like, I feel like she knew, like, he's going to get like 10,000 new subs out of this. I can't give him that.
The big, besides the Google search, which, by the way, obviously, if the Google search is provably at 2:27 a.m., that is the single most one fact case is over. It's literally over at that point. They can't possibly explain that in a good way if that's true. But when you look at the rest of what she said, how, you know, I knew nothing, I went in the house, all this stuff is going on. And when they come and talk to the cops the first time, she doesn't share anything about, she said, you know, I hit him or did I hit him? Nothing. They have their little family meeting. They're, you know, whatever, they're getting their ducks in a row, stories lined up, all that stuff. And then she, after this meeting, has an epiphany to, you know, call Lank back. So what happens then? Okay, delete everything. The deletions are taken care of. And then she says, oh, she said, did I hit him? Which I think was probably an attempt at that point to deflect attention, but not necessarily stick a knife in her, just kind of steer them in another direction. And that was the story for a long time until, and I really don't want to get into this kind of stuff, but until you kind of came around and, you know, whatever.
I agree.
And they went, you know, now they're on the radar, they're taking the heat, they're pissed off, and they don't, you know, we're innocent people. So what do? The story gets worse. Yes. Now she says, I hit him in this. And all of a sudden, we're innocent people being harassed. She's a killer.
Yeah.
And it actually makes perfect sense. And then when you find out, when she's being cross-examined, that when she went to the grand jury to indict in the state case to indict Karen Reed, she said no less than 12 times, did I hit him? Did I hit him? And she says, yeah, that's what I said because it's in the transcript. So this is something you just recently said. No, she said it the whole time. I hit him. And she doesn't make any sense.
I think it's because at first they kind of felt bad. Like, they're like, how can we save ourselves and not send this woman to life or prison? Like, kind of make it look like an accident. Like, oh, like she'll be okay. Like, she'll take the fall. Like, maybe she'll get probation or something like that.
Listen,
you know, like, and then after a while, when she started fighting back, they were like, fuck this cunt. Let's go. Like, fuck this cunt.
I think that as part of the early part of this, when Proctor was, you know, telling his buddies things and he made that one text, I wish she would kill herself. That if you think about the context of what we're talking about, that's the solution.
That would have solved so many problems.
Never going to hold up. Right. It's like a panic situation
for that defense team to have something like that to present to a jury.
We don't want Albers to get in trouble, but this is never going to hold up. Okay. So if she would just kill herself, this whole thing is over.
Goes away.
And I don't know how I mean, think about it. It makes no sense. Why would he tell his buddies, shortly after the investigation, on top of everything else, okay, I'm going to arrest her. I'm going to look for nude pictures, and I'm going to tell him, don't worry, you know, Albert's covered. He's clean. He's a cop. Don't worry. But also, I wish she would just kill herself. That is a actual stream of consciousness admission that I'm in over my head here, and I screwed up, and fuck, pardon my French.
Mark, real quick before what did you make of Jen McCabe on Cross always asking for documents? Can I look at it? Can I see it? Is that, in your opinion, like to keep all the lies straight? Because I felt like she was just all over the place and not remembering what she said, and kept really challenging Jackson.
Yes and no. I mean, she's look, any witness, when you're going to try to impeach him with a prior statement, has a right to be, you know, to examine the statement and whatnot. I mean, I think in her case, it was certainly an attempt to delay, distract, and gather intelligence. Because remember, she said something else, which is a real prosecutor would have had a real problem with this, and it would have been a red flag when she was prepping with Lally. You know, the one time he prepped any witness, and what did she say? She walks in there and says, I need to know everything you gave the defense about what I said. Yeah. And what a real prosecutor at that point would do is step out of the room with the detective or whoever and say, what is going on here? Why? I mean, I'm happy to like prep her, and if she wants to review her paperwork, but she seemed to not want to prep other than, what do they know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, let me red flag.
I'm gonna just read a couple of turtle chats here, and sometimes there's some good questions here, so I'm gonna bang through some of these. We got $10 here from Paul. Says, thanks everyone that came out to Morrissey's yesterday. More to come. # free Karen Reed. Yes, thank you. That's Paul Cristoforo, great guy, leading a lot of these protests at the district attorney's office. Love 100%. To see it. Thank you, Paul. Tracy sends $25 and says, hope all your shit is over soon. You know what, Tracy? I feel like I can't wait for like the Reed case to end, and I given Kat a chance to dig into my case, and I just can't wait. I'm looking. I want it to get dismissed. Obviously, that would be better. I'm not afraid of a trial. I can't fucking wait because I'm going to take the stand, and I have nothing to hide. Like, I'm just going to explain my entire case is shit I said on YouTube. Like, that's 90% of the case, and I'm happy to explain. The Colin Albert call, I'm mocking him because he's a fucking idiot. I'm making fun of him. I'm not actually threatening him at all. Okay. I want all these people to testify. I'm not trying to impede justice. I'm having a great time at the trial. I fucking love this shit. Why would I ever want to impede this? This is great for business. Okay. So thank you very much. Next up, we got $10 from Scott. It says, stayed to catch this live. Amazing panel lineup. Yeah, this is a good one. Yeah, let's go. They're all here via your work, Unc, but all outstanding on their own. Kudos to you and your journalists. Thank you, Scott. Yeah, it's kind of an all-star panel here. The only thing we're missing is Sean on the golf, but we'll get him on another time. Sarah sends $5. Yeah, Sarah sends $5. It says, never fear, doctor. Many are catching up, still getting to know your approach in journalism. The fact is, you're the only voice that was loud enough to get an army behind Karen. Much love. You wrote about the panhandling muskrats of Worcester. Okay, thank you very much, sir. I appreciate that. Andy sends $25. Says, keep up the great work, Turtleboy. Also a huge fan of Bederow, Glare, and LTL. Andy and Jen in San Francisco. Man, turtle riders are all across the country, man. The story is like, there's like a shitload of people from across the pond too. I got an email the other day. Some lady's coming from England, wants to meet me. Like, I met some chick from Scotland the other day. This is an international. Australia. We got a lot of kangaroos in the comments all of a sudden. So these people are everywhere. So thank you very much for that. Steven sends $25. Says, you're the cat's pajamas. Okay. Thank you very much, motherfucker. I appreciate that. Julie sends $20. Says, imagine the fear that must be embedded in all of those people to go along with this. Their stories are shit, but still, how has no one cracked? And let me just that's a good fucking point. Like, yeah, that's the craziest part about this is, and that's probably the strongest argument the other side has. Is how is no one fucking cracked?
Everybody thought it was going to be Higgins, I guess, when Higgins came in.
Or Sarah Levinson. How is Sarah Levinson not cracked?
I mean, they're all, subject to accountability. You know what I mean? So everybody, if anything even remotely went the way that we think it went, everybody who, I mean, for at least lying on the stand, because pretty much everybody lied on the stand. Let's just be honest. Everybody who was in 34 Fairview that night pretty much lied.
But if Sarah Levinson tomorrow testified, said, okay, I want to come clean, I want to make a deal, like approached the U.S. Attorney's office and said, look, I don't want to go to prison. I will tell you everything that fucking happened in there. I think that would work. She would avoid prison. Why doesn't she do that?
Because it would depend on her testimony. Like, I mean, what if it's not enough? What if what she comes forward with isn't enough to indict anybody?
She says, I witnessed a murder.
Well, that's different. I mean,
I saw like she might not have witnessed the murder, but she witnessed the hour-long meeting afterwards in which they were figuring out how they're going to cover this up. She was there for that.
Right. And I mean, who knows? And who knows how far Brian Albert's tentacles go? Because I honestly believe that he's the common denominator as far as fear goes. Like, they're afraid of jail and they're afraid of Brian Albert. You know, everybody is.
Even the chief, according to the sustained objection.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
he's a scary dude. Like, after watching the Colin fight videos, I no longer think it was Brian. Like, I think it was fucking Brian. I don't think Colin's capable of doing that to John's face. I thought he was from watching his videos. I assumed he was. It turns out he's kind of full of shit. Like he fights, just not very well. But Brian can fight. You know, Brian can fight.
Yeah. Yeah. Something happened in that house, man. And just about everybody, I'm convinced, knows what happened.
Yes. Yeah. Here's the thing, though. It's not going to matter at the end of the day, at least as it relates to the case against Karen Reed. This whole third-party culprit thing really doesn't matter. I mean, they're still going to argue that the police botched this. And the other thing that that's
the foundation that they're consistently building towards, right, Mark?
Absolutely.
They're like, everything is leading to how Proctor handled this investigation. As far as like when they finish their cross-examination, it goes into, when were you interviewed? And did you see anything out in the lawn? Blah blah blah. And questions that would lead back to Proctor. Did Proctor ask you about this? Blah, blah, blah. So that seems like they're leading towards, like, at the end of the day, no matter what, we're going to get this case acquitted just on how this investigation was conducted.
They served it up perfectly in their opening statement. And then for some reason that none of us who do this for a living understand, Lally fell right into the trap by literally delaying Proctor for this long, which is something you just never do, just to keep the jury awake. You lay out the investigation. He's the glue guy. I did this. I built the case. Here's why she's guilty. But even beyond that, by leaving him hanging out there, every witness comes in and there's more Proctor stuff, more police stuff, more sketchy stuff, more that they're already aware of and waiting for when he shows up. It's not new information. So,
and by the way, I want to insert real quick. I got a text during the show from someone in the Reed camp. 𝗵𝗂𝗧 is testifying this week. That's confirmed.
Nice.
So you would think that would lead to more troopers testifying as well.
Man.
And the thing, go ahead.
Go ahead, Brian. No, please, Brian. Please.
No, I was going to say, and the thing about it too, you've seen now, Mark, is, like you said, leaving Proctor hanging for this long, you've now had the opportunity for these witnesses to come in, and what have they been doing? They're distancing themselves now from Proctor, probably on the advice of their attorneys, and they're saying, well, just say you didn't write the statement down correctly, or the time and the date wasn't correctly. And you heard a lot of that during Jen McCabe's testimony. You know, they're going to really cut this,
which alone makes Proctor seem that much weaker, and his investigation seem that much weaker.
Yeah, it's kind of pick your poison. McCabe's lying or Proctor is, but in either event, it won't matter. But the bottom line is, whether they're ever able to prove anything specifically happened in the house or not, with the text messages, the Google search, and all the other weird stuff going on right after. I mean, when they explain this to a jury and marshal it properly, and obviously Jackson knows what he's doing and will be able to do this very effectively. When you ask a jury rhetorically, if these people had nothing to do with anything, whatever that may be, something bad happened, because why are they acting like this when they're all supposed to be asleep instead of Googling how long it takes for this guy to die? Why are they having these alleged butt dials, phone activities? Some of the stuff, if you recall from the records, Brian Albert, correct me if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, you'll let me know. But I think during this weird time period of 2 or 4 in the morning was texting photos to Jennifer McCabe. God knows what that could have been.
Oh.
She created a new contact name for him, if you recall. Like
she screenshotted that because I think she was deleting the contact from her phone and she wanted to have it to send that screenshot
Think
to
about
someone.
that. This is her brother-in-law. That's one of her best friends and relatives. And she decides the time to delete his contact information is 5 o'clock in the morning after we just found a dead body on the lawn.
Yeah, really
Good
normal.
luck.
Very
Hey,
convenient.
let me get through a couple more of these, right? We got from, let's see. We have Vicky sends $5, says awesome foursome tonight. Whoop. There's a case over here in England that I tagged you on X, similar to what's going on. But what you conspire, you can't conspire and cover up. Cool. I'll check it out. Thank you, Vicky. Appreciate that. Frank sends $25 and says, great job, doctor, with this case. You have previously served us well with your community here in Chelmsford with our local government as a 30-year law enforcement officer. Nice. Currently with the rank of lieutenant. I cannot believe the incompetence and corruption demonstrated by both Canton police and state police. And that's one noted thing I have noticed a difference of talking to people who work for municipal police departments, like in my own local town police department. Everyone I've talked to from the Holden police is on board with this, and they agree with me. Like, this is fucked. Like, she's innocent. It's just the state police. Like, that one institution is a lot more problematic. And I can get into my theories with that and just
but that
kind of people that they want.
Itself is very telling. Just that the staties are defending this. Every other law enforcement entity is going, this is horrible.
It's the culture of the state police, man. It's just their boot camp that they go through to get in there. It's like fucking weird. It's like they're joining the army. Like, they really, like, the way it's just, they're just taught to conform, not question, go along with everything. And I don't want to go on my red state thing here, but the vaccine, like they had a fucking vaccine mandate. Not all police departments did, right? They had a vaccine mandate, and a lot of troopers lost their job because they refused to get it. And those are the kind of people they don't want in the state police. Free thinkers, people who will like question authority and don't go along with everything. Michael Proctor's a good cop because he's vaccinated and fucking doesn't fucking turn on his boys. That's the kind of cop that they like. They don't like free thinkers. But anyway, that's a little rant I had there. Anyway, so thank you very much. Kim sends $10, says, if you want corrupt Boston police, watch Trial 4. And thank you, Turtleboy, for all you do. Yes, very good documentary. We've had Sean Ellis. He's actually in the Justice Group. Thank you very much, Kim. Chantel sends $5. Says, in regards to corruption versus negligence, the Canton police had to try real hard to fuck up that badly. See, I disagree with that. I do think the Canton police, I don't think the Canton, well, I do think they're a little corrupt. But I think that morning, after listening to Lank's testimony, I don't think he had a fucking clue what was going on. I just think he's just like, that's my Brian Albert's my boy. I'm not going to bust his chops. But I don't think he thought at the time these guys just murdered someone. I'm going to cover this up. I just think his instinct was to be like, I'm not going to bust my boy's fucking chops and search his house. You know, I don't know what you guys think of that. Do you guys think the Canton police are dirt? Like, do you think they Canton police knowingly covered up a murder, or do you think they're just looking out for the homies?
I think what you're saying makes a lot of sense as far as like at initially, but the 𝗵𝗀𝗄𝗆 finding the tail light, the piece of tail light, super shady. So he's the chief.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna say Canton is definitely culpable here.
Yeah,
and it's a little weird they allowed a witness that was just out on the front of a lawn with a dead Boston police officer there. Yeah, just go up in the house and go ahead, go inside. I mean, it's a little weird.
And again, you can't separate the fact that the dead body on the lawn was a police officer on another police officer's lawn, and their idea is, well, there's not much we can do, so break out the leaf blowers and the solo cups and call it a day. That's not good. And that, you have to wonder. And then when Lank comes back, or even the first time when they showed up, like you just said, sending her into that house without knowing what's going on and maybe not asking more questions. How well do you know him? Do you know why he might be here? I mean, you never even really heard, other than just, we didn't know anything. What about, like, he was going to come here and she dropped him off and he was out. I saw him outside, but he never came in, or whatever it was. And they just kind of looked around and left. And the other thing is this is not a can thing, perhaps as much as a state police thing, but they don't have to stop investigating just because they arrested her. I mean, so as like this went on and the state police were learning more and more things that should have been troubling, it would have been okay to try to figure out what's going on.
That's a great point. That's something I never even thought of.
How did they never? I mean, when they found out that, you know, he got the floor redone and the dog was taken away. Look, I don't want to get all tinfoil hat. I don't think that is getting tinfoil hat. Cops are suspicious by nature. How that doesn't at least pique their interest to say, why don't we go talk to these people? Like, what is that all about? Do you mind if we just kind of sit down and talk this over and look at your phones more carefully and do all this? They had no interest. And then even when they got all the federal material where, you know, the DA knows everything that's out there now, they still said, you know, onward and upward, soldier on, let's go. They've never taken any attempt to say, maybe what we're doing here isn't right. And so are they corrupt in purpose and thought? I don't know. There's a lot of things, though, a lot of coincidences. They're not concerned about the leaks, about that.
That's what I'm saying. Like
that's troubling.
But that's Brian Tully's job. Like, it's his job to be concerned about.
That's Michael Morrissey's job.
Right. That too. Right.
That's worse. He's a lawyer. He knows about prejudicing a potential jury pool and knows that when that first news story came out and they say that this woman's on Ring video mowing down her boyfriend, that everyone says she's guilty. And sure enough, everyone just assumed, yeah, she's toast. There's a video of it.
Yeah, you're done.
I mean, the jury pool gets tampered even that far in advance. You know, he gives all this false information at the press conference we talked about. Has he ever once said, why am I saying these things if they're not true? Who the hell is doing this? And what are we doing about it? It doesn't appear he has any concern about that.
Hey, Mark, so before I forget, so this comment here from Turtle Cadet, I talked about this earlier and I want to address it now before I forget. You said earlier that there's on STS that there is a disadvantage for the defense calling Proctor as opposed to cross-examining him. What's the difference?
Tactically, there is, although procedurally it may not be. So when you call a witness as you're a witness, you have to conduct a direct examination with non-leading questions. You can't just put him up there and just start attacking him in a cross-examine way. When you cross-examine, you know, everything's leading. You can get a little hot in attitude. You can yes or no and shove thing. You control a witness much easier on cross. I mean, cross-examination is much more effective than direct, but you cannot start out by cross-examining a witness you call. And when you ask non-leading questions, you also get very open answers. So you can't steer them where you want to go. You can't tell them yes or no. So in theory, he could start out by just saying it in whatever way, and you kind of have to let him ramble on as long as it's responsive to the question. Now, there comes a point where arguably if he's being difficult or he's being evasive, that you could try to have him declared a hostile witness because, you know, Your Honor, he's a cop. What do you expect him to do? And if the judge agrees, which in this case is kind of a 50-50 proposition, then at that point, you could just tear him a new one and cross-examine him that way. So, I mean, the one thing for the DA that would be better would be not to have, Jackson or Yannetti cross-examine Proctor. But the risk for the DA is how weak and pathetic do they look after all this if they don't call the lead investigator, the defense does, and then in the summation, Jackson will just club them over the head and look at the jury and say they didn't even have the guts or the confidence to call their investigator because they knew
he should have been one of the first people, that they called up. I've never followed a trial where the lead investigator wasn't one of the first witnesses for the prosecution.
Absolutely.
So wouldn't it be fair to expect the jury to already if the defense calls Proctor up, the jury's already going to be like, yeah, I want to hear from this motherfucker right here.
As time went on and on, I mean, people like me start wondering whether he just plans on taking the fifth. There's got to be a reason for this pushing him off. But it's also a huge disadvantage, though, if as we talked about, the DA doesn't call him. So I think ultimately they're going to hold their nose, call him, and then hide under the table and see that, there's not too much rubble in the courtroom and just hope for the best. But either way, they're going to take a huge hit with Proctor, clearly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not going to be pretty for them.
Yeah. So hold on. Sorry. Wrong thing there. Okay. Read a couple more chats here. We have from Greg sends $10, says, question for Mark. Why didn't the investigators formally interview Karen? She quickly became a suspect and they didn't do a formal interview. That's true. If they had asked her about, did I hit him? Could I have hit him? She may have just said she only said that because she had not scenario for John ending up dead. When was the first time they interviewed her?
Well, she gave him the phone and she was willing to talk to them. So, I mean, look, she talked to them on some level before she had an attorney, and she cooperated in every regard. There's nothing to suggest that you've heard that she wasn't willing to. If she had a lawyer right away, any lawyer would have advised her, we're not talking, and there wouldn't be anything. But that's another interesting point about what the hell are the cops doing? There's all this testimony. There's all this testimony from even the first responders and the cops that she's running around saying, did I hit him? Did I hit him? And you'd think at that point, somebody might say, can you kind of come over here? What do you mean?
Right.
That doesn't even mean a car. What does that even mean? You hit him.
Yeah.
Because, oh my God, might I have backed into him?
You're going to want her to elaborate. You're going to,
Actually, yeah, she did. She was questioned at her parents' house. And now I remember one thing that Proctor said that Karen Reed told her that she did a 3-point turn. And Karen Reed disputes ever saying that, because that was the original plan here was death by 3-point turn. They've since abandoned that because it's ridiculous. And it would have hit the wrong tail light if that happened. And you can't get enough momentum doing that. So now it's death by 62 feet at 24 miles an hour. But they've changed.
Jeep with a Jeep parked
with the Jeep. Yes. The new, that's a new twist. We can get to that. Let me see a couple more here. Let's see. Little Irish girl sends $10, says, Doc, Mark, Brian, and Will on one panel. It's not even my birthday. Love you all. Free Karen Reed, free Turtleboy. Thank you very much, little Irish girl. I appreciate that. Greg sends $10, says, question for Mark. The state police never. Wait, I already got that one. Okay, she sent that twice. Thanks for the $10, Greg. $20 actually. John B sends 30. Says, great show tonight. Lally has to have some reason why he's placing Higgins' Jeep in front of the mailbox. I've been trying to figure it out. Initially, I thought it was to suggest it obstructed Ryan Nagel's view of John's body. Me too. But the more I think about it, this is where he's going. Higgins left Fairview after Karen hit John, and Higgins drove off. His plow was still in the down position, tilted towards the right, causing it to push the taillight pieces from the street onto Brian Albert's lawn. But if that's the case, John, then why didn't the Canton police find it in the morning with their leaf blower? So that still doesn't. I'm with you guys. I think it's his first thing there. I think they're trying to discredit Ryan Nagel.
It's in my view, it's totally, and again, this shows the weakness of the case because they're trying to use other witnesses that are theirs to discredit other witnesses that they called, which is, it makes your head spin as a lawyer to think, what are you doing? But the bottom line is those three witnesses, Ryan Nagel, his friend, and the girl, I think they're devastating witnesses.
They're great witnesses.
Yeah, I mean, these are great defense witnesses. And at this point, I think he's just going to plan and say they're good people, but their recollection's not so great. And we know that because, credible Brian Higgins and his Jeep plow. And he even remembers, plowing the snow that didn't exist. If anyone can ever explain that, is another story. But I think it's to discredit Ryan Nagel and those three because they hurt the DA's case a lot.
Yes, they do. Next one we have here. Kyle sends $5, says, I like the way Bev worked on it. No higgity. Oh, I see what you got there. Okay. I still think B Higgy has more. I like the way Bev work it. No higgity. Okay. I see what you did there. Okay. Still think B Higgy has more game than the bitch ass anonymous Twitter finger accounts. I mean, he's struggling, man. It's like he's never been with a chick before. It's bad. He was not like, dude, that was so painful for him and for her reading those, for all of us listening to that.
I spent a total of I don't even know how many hours, but definitely multiple hours just talking about his lack of game. Just It's like with you were on panel with me when it was live, and then I went over it again because I had other thoughts on it, and it was just painful. Like,
can you imagine being a prosecutor, having them read 60 pages, word for word, of text messages for an hour and a half to establish the fact that she clearly was pissed, so she was flirting with him to give him, screwing around.
Right.
Obviously, it was never going to be serious. Ghosted him at the end, and then he has to go through all that, and then says, "I wasn't upset when she ignored me in the bar because she didn't ignore me, even though he said, well, she didn't talk to you. No, you sent her a message. Well, with about 8 question marks. Did she respond? No, she ignored you. No,
somehow this is motive
not
on
how
Karen Reed.
Not how I interpreted it.
Yikes!
I mean, that's a 15-year federal agent just getting dragged for hours
voluntarily. He literally went to a kiosk in the FBI just to save that conversation. He wanted that to come out. He deleted everything else, but he's like, oh, this is gonna make me look fucking awesome. A hot chick wanted me. Like, that's what he felt. So Karen Reed wanted me. Look at me.
Explain to with Higgins. I told my female supervisor
I'm
flirting with John O'Keefe's girlfriend, but I never told Brian Albert in a 4-hour drive home.
Bullshit.
Yeah, that's true.
Or how about this? How about, hey, John, your chick's hitting me up. I think she
at some point.
Yeah, he can't. I don't think he gave based on his responses. I don't think he cared too much. He was like willing to like do it under the table. He's like, really?
I'm proud of what I did.
So you guys are on the rocks.
I'm proud of what I did.
You need a shoulder to cry on, because tell me all about your problems. He went right to the feelings part. He didn't get the sex first. He went right to the feelings.
Serious.
It's like, oh, dude, Higgins, you're killing me. Okay.
Did tell him that John O'Keefe had ring cameras, which was interesting.
Yeah, that's true. We have $25 from Kevin here. Says the defense sleeps at night knowing that they are doing the right thing. No, I mean, I truly believe that, like, attorneys are paid to represent their clients, but I think that they are especially passionate about this particular client.
This is a dream case for a defense attorney.
Because they know she's innocent.
Case for,
when you see the jury and they see Jackson and Yannetti, clearly they believe what they're doing. They have that righteous indignation. We're on the side of the angels. And you compare that with Lally, who has, like, he sounds like a dial tone. He drones on.
He does sound like a dial tone.
Terrible posture. And when he objects,
no confidence at all.
None. But when he objects, he sounds like he's passing a kidney stone or something every time. It's like such effort, and he's projecting such a lack of confidence and belief.
He sighs like Bev, every time he goes objection.
And why is the other prosecutor there? Can we get the woman a chance? Like, she has to be able to do better than him, right?
I don't know why they don't let her do anything. I mean, this poor guy is like doing a trial by himself, probably 20 hours a day. He goes home, goes to sleep, comes back to work. Time to make the donuts the next day. Day after day, and nobody helps him. It's really
like, does he feel inspired when he wakes up in the morning? Like, I'm going to go in and do some good today. I am going to I have this plan. I'm going to come in there with fire and brimstone, and we are going to nail this chick today on air. It's like, and then he's like, so Marietta Sullivan, what, if anything, did Karen Reed? How much of a cunt was Karen Reed on a scale of 1 to 10? Please tell us that. Oh, she was a good 5.5. Okay. Well, what, if anything? Tell us more about the cabanas. Were the, how are the beds?
What was the weather like?
Yeah, it's like,
by far, so far, my favorite Lolly moment is when he hands the dude from the library footage the disc, and then he goes. The guy's like, this isn't my disc. This isn't the disc that I gave the state police. And then and then Lolly goes like this. He goes, could you tell me what the footage is on this disc?
No, because computers don't have computers don't have CD-ROMs anymore. So
like, he's asking him to look at the disc physically and identify the footage on it on the stand.
I'm glad you brought this up, because this is really illustrates the problem with this office and how they don't prep witnesses. Anytime you have an exhibit like that, you have a witness, You have him in your office. You go over, I'm going to ask you this, and I'm going to show you this. And what you would do in theory is you would show him the video. He'd watch it in your presence, or at some point he would initial it, date it. And then when you hand it to him, you'd say, I'm showing you, exhibit whatever for identification. Do you recognize it? Yeah, it's a copy of the library tape I made. Well, how do you recognize it? Because I watched it with you and it has my date and initials. And this guy literally never told him, I'm going to show you this. He just assumed. And then he has this like IT nerd look at him and say, that's not what I gave the police.
And his grin was priceless. He was just like, nope, that's not what I gave him.
And he does this on national TV. I mean, everybody's watching this. And it's really embarrassing that for the criminal justice system as a whole, that this incredible trial, it's a showpiece trial for the whole country. And this is what you see, a DA leading with his chin, as I said on another podcast, and walking into a brick wall where you can't even have a witness identify his evidence, where he has to go to sidebar and say, Your Honor, I just, I don't know what to say, but that's the disc, I think. But he says no. It's pathetic. That should never happen, ever.
Mark, I got two questions about jury really quick, and forgive my ignorance to case law and courtroom. Is there a point, can this be possible, that a jury just hears enough and they say, we've heard enough? Or do they have to go through the complete remainder?
I know the answer to that. They have to keep going. The jury doesn't just get to say trial's over.
I'll tell you something. They better pick it up, because it's after Memorial Day. It's summer. It's beach season, and they're going to get pissed. They have to sit there for another month or two with this.
My other question too is, I've heard a lot about this, and the rumors kind of swirl that juries tend not to like, and this just might be a theory people throw out there, juries tend not to like when they see a defendant be upcharged. Is there any truth to that?
Yeah, no, I mean, if they have some degree of evidence or a feeling that a defendant is guilty of a serious crime, they charge them. Of course, the problem here is, we're saying upcharge. What's the charge? It's 5 weeks into this, right, and there's literally, other than a questionable statement, I hit him. I say questionable because, the McLaughlin thing from 6 months ago and all of that, it's a little inconsistent, and I don't think McCabe is reliable. But other than the statement, I hit him, I don't think there's any other evidence that even establishes
it's 5 weeks, and there's nothing that you can at least riddle with doubt.
All they have been doing is trying to rebut the defense case before the defense has even put a case on, which is
the prosecution is on the defense.
There's three things. There's three things. There's three pieces. They got three things. I hit him. She's a cunt and Aruba and a bad person. So they got that out of the way. They got the kids who testified and Marietta Sullivan. I hit him, and then they got taillight, right? And that's going to get disputed later on. But they haven't even gotten to the fucking taillight. Like why haven't they brought in the CERT team guys yet? The people who found the goddamn taillight, because one of them is named Michael Proctor. That's the problem. But there's also Kevin O'Hara. There's a bunch of people on that list who found taillight, right? We don't know who put it there, but they found it, and they have not yet been called yet. You would think at some point they would have to. Real quick, another turtle chat here says, are you going to Disney after you win? No, but I did kind of, and somebody made a good point, and I've thought about this, and I kind of want to see what people think here I should do for this. Okay, the day of the verdict, I've wanted to be in the courtroom for that, and because it's like historic, but I kind of want to have a verdict party, like at a bar somewhere. So what do you guys think would be a better thing to do? Should I go to the courtroom and be there that day, or should we have a verdict party at some sort of bar nearby and have that verdict party would be fucking cool. Don't
That'd
you guys
be great,
think?
because everybody can get together.
Like the live reaction to it,
Yeah.
There is nothing more nerve-wracking than waiting for a verdict, and when they come in and are about to publish
waterfall, yes.
And it's, when you're involved in it, so from my perspective, I would be in the courtroom, but it's also, the tension is just insane. And also, you don't know what the verdict is, even though you know what the verdict is. But, a lot of times when they read a verdict, you'll see, they'll bring in many, many more court officers, and they'll surround the place because, under the theory, what if there's a conviction, defendant, theoretically could go in right then and there. And it's very tense, and with the families, and especially in this terrible closet courtroom, which is not equipped you know, for this kind of thing, they should almost like move back to the other courtroom for the verdict. But I mean, they won't. But I would.
Yeah, they could theoretically on the last day, right? Bring it in there because that way you could fit like 100 people. Imagine and somebody said this to me yesterday. Just imagine Karen Read gets convicted. I don't think it's going to happen, but like imagine what that would be like if Karen Read.
I just can't imagine all the jurors being unanimous in convicting this woman.
But just imagine a world in which imagine a world in which, but imagine a world in which it happens. What would the reaction be to that?
People would lose their shit.
What would happen? Yeah, like how would there just be like I can imagine yelling in the courtroom, crying, like outrage. Whereas if Karen Read's acquitted, which seems to be the betting favorite in Las Vegas, that she's going to be acquitted. I think his mother will cry when that happens. John's mother will cry, but I don't think there will be like yelling or outrage or anything like that. But if she's like, there will be, you'll hear yelling outside of the courtroom.
Oh yeah,
like there will be like
huge
something.
protest.
I'm worried. Yeah, like what the fuck would happen?
That street outside the courtroom will get shut down. People will stay there for hours.
Like I would be in shock if that, you know, like that. But it's not going to happen. It's not. But just imagine
I can't imagine a reality where that would even like an alternate reality where that would even happen.
I don't see any way that she's going to get convicted, and I know that triggers a lot of people online who yell at me and call me this and that. But
they're so serious. They're so convinced that this is going well. We are living in two completely different realities. Like it's mostly on Twitter, but like we're like even people like Julie Grant, she's on Court TV. She seems to think this is going well. Like they seem to truly believe that this is going well, and Karen Read is on her way to conviction. How the fuck are we living in these two different realities? Like it's crazy. It's crazy.
I mean, listen, if you speak to lawyers who do this for a living, not just me, I mean, we talk about it a little. I don't know if they're in the weeds as much as I've gotten in the weeds, but I don't know any real credible lawyer who evaluates this kind of stuff on an everyday basis, who thinks that this is going well for the DA. No, I mean, listen, you are 5 weeks in. They have not called a lead investigator. They have not called a medical examiner. They have not attached any significant evidence to the vehicle. They are flailing as they attempt to establish that she was intoxicated. I mean, they're getting better at it, I guess, but they haven't done that yet. I mean, nothing is going right. I don't know how anyone could think this is going good. The jury knows so much about the defense theory, and they've left so many breadcrumbs, and they're going to have these accident reconstruction people. They're going to have all these other people who are going to contradict some of the things that were said, their own 𝗫𝗿 expert who's going to also be able to talk about going up and down the steps, which may be, you know, some of their best evidence to theorize that John O'Keefe had to be in the house if he's going up and down. How else could that be going on?
The 𝗫𝗿 guy's going to talk about that? Wouldn't the Apple guy? Richard Green. Right.
Yeah, not literally the 𝗫𝗿 guy, but their forensic guy will show that he appeared to be going up and down around this time. And I mean, where else could that be but going up and down, either upstairs or in the basement and up? I mean, it seems kind of obvious.
Well, if that's the case, the FBI has access to them. That is the strongest piece of evidence of John being inside the house, is the phone going up and downstairs.
Unless somebody says it happened, right?
If that's solid, if that's kind of indisputable, how has there not been, like, that's, people are going to jail if John was in the house. Like, how has that not happened yet?
At this point, if they could prove he was in the house, I would say there'd be a lot of perjury indictments if they could literally prove that. But again, the feds don't prosecute everyone for perjury just because they think they lied. They want literally, you said this under oath and then you said that, or you said something where there's a videotape showing the exact opposite. Would they do it just based upon reliance on cell phone records which show, or an Apple Watch that shows up and down? I'm not sure, but
their testimonies can be used against them in prosecution later on, right? In a federal prosecution.
I mean, everything they said now is under oath, subject to cross-examination. So it's
so you're of the opinion that this trial is kind of a prelude to
the feds allowed this. The feds allowed this to go to trial to build the case against.
You know what? I hope not. Only for the simple reason that although they want to build a better case, a woman's life is
you're playing with fire.
Here.
You're playing with
and
fire.
God forbid. I mean, what are you going to? That would be.
What if they guaranteed Karen Reed behind the scenes and her defense team and said, "Hey, we just want to keep building a case, but if it turns out that the corruption gets so bad that there is some sort of conviction, we'll step in and we'll put a stop to this and we'll intervene." Is that possible?
That seems fucking weird.
If the U.S. attorney is doing that, that's not good.
It seems unethical, right? It seems unethical, right?
Yeah, I think that they have a wait and see. They want to see what happens. I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to tell the parties, "Why don't you take a deep breath and take a pause?" I can understand why the DA might say, "We don't care what you think. We're just going to do what we want." I don't know what the defense position on that was. On the one hand, she wants her trial. She's probably going to get acquitted. On the other hand, if there's, any kind of delay that could have been afforded to stop it all together, you're not in jail. I might have gone for that.
Yeah. Let me read a couple of chats here. Gina sends $5. She says, "I think when John arrived at the house, Higgins told him about the kiss and the texting with Karen. That's why a fight broke out." I definitely do not agree that, I can't imagine, Gina, a world in which, John O'Keefe walks in the door. It's like, "Hey, I smooched your girl." He was at the waterfall with her. He could have fucking told him then if he wanted to confront John. It's like, "Hey, I made out with your girl fucking 2 weeks ago." I just find that a little hard to believe. So I'm not really buying that. I think it was Brian Albert. I think Brian Albert's, this is my theory. I have no way to back this up, prove this or anything. It's just a theory. I think it's the most likely thing that he walked into that house and him and Colin had words, and Brian Albert is not going to allow Colin Albert, a member of the Albert family, to be disrespected under his roof by anyone. I mean, that's just what I think happened. But
what is with Colin Albert being branded Yellowstone style?
I know. Well, branded Yellowstone, the people who were branded in Yellowstone kind of they didn't have to do shit. It was his son Jamie in Yellowstone. That's who Colin Albert is.
Do they all have that? Is that a family crest that they all get branded?
No, the literal brand. The literal. Oh yeah,
he had the Albert name, like a Yellowstone brand.
Yeah, and so does his son Jack had it too. They got matching tattoos. They all get that. It's fucking.
I never put that together. Yeah, there's that picture of it.
It's not a family. It's a cult. It's fucking weird. It's weird. It's not normal.
Could you see a scenario that John knew about the text between Karen and Brian and went?
I think the texts are overrated, man. I think those texts, it's like nobody gives a shit about those texts. I mean, I think it's a little far-fetched to believe that Higgins beat him up because I want your girlfriend. No, I think Brian Albert started it because Brian Albert's a fucking asshole and he has the devil in his eyes. I saw it, man. When he walked, I wasn't allowed in the courtroom because he's scared of me. And he walks out of the courtroom. I'm sitting there and we look face to face on the way out. He's walking down the stairs. He looked at me, dude. He gave me the look you like that motherfucker, huh? Yeah, I did good, didn't I? He looked at me yeah, you're next. I'm going to get away with this, bitch. He's got the devil in him. I swear to God. I think that guy's fucking evil. I think Brian Albert did it. I just think he did it. But
in the interest of motive, I feel like Higgins had a part in it because he seems to have a strong motive. But other than that, I mean, it makes perfect sense. Brian Albert is.
I think Higgins was heavily involved in the cover-up. Thus the 222 phone call to come back here and help us get this fucking body out of here.
And Higgins and Brian Albert were playing grab ass, all hyping each other up in the bar too.
Yeah.
You're not buying that after a night of drinking. He wanted to go move cars and do some administrative work. You're not buying that?
I'm buying that as much as that he had to move his trash in a vehicle instead of putting it outside his house like a normal person and put his phone in there and his SIM card the day before he got served with a preservation letter. I wonder who tipped him off to that. Stephen Nelson's on the list. I wonder if he has something to do with that.
I said I would, Your Honor, cut up and destroy the SIM card, Your Honor.
I would, in theory.
I kind of gave the OJ if I did it hypo. It was a little strange, very strange. Again, not a very well prepped witness, but that's part and parcel for what.
None of them seem to be.
No.
We got Jane on the Cash App sends 10, says an extra 10 for the big package. Thank you, Jane. That's very nice of you. All right. Scott sends $5 and says, dude, when all is said and done, who's going to jail? Real quick, my prediction is if anyone, Jen McCabe and possibly Brian Higgins, just because of the Google search is the only thing I think right now that they can get them on. And Brian Higgins fucking around. Predict real quick, 2-second predictions. Who do you guys think is going to jail? Brian is who's going to jail?
Higgins, definitely. I mean, with what everything that he said. So I mean, he basically admitted to a federal crime. So I think he'd probably be the top.
Any McAlberts? No, any McAlberts going to jail?
I mean, Jen. I think with the 227.
Jen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
If any of the Alberts or McAlberts, definitely Jen.
Yeah.
Okay. And what do you think, Mark? Do you think anyone's going to jail for this?
If they're satisfied that the cellular evidence is airtight and that if statements were made that are contradicted by that, and that's enough, then I would say Jen McCabe is the most like her testimony was most perjurious and repeatedly than the others.
All right.
Mark, is that the one that, do you think Jen's the one that for you that really sank the Commonwealth? You know, just listen to all the witnesses so far. Is that the one that really sticks out for you?
Oh yeah, I think she's so far and away the worst. And also the problem that she has is she's the centerpiece of all of this. She's involved in every scene there is. She's involved at the bars, at the house, leaving the house, the phone call, the search with Karen, going to Karen's house, going to O'Keefe's, wherever. I mean, she's part of all of this. The meeting, calling the cops back, and you know, it's just
she's involved in almost everything behind the scenes that we know about.
Part of this.
She got her kid involved. Her kid was Colin Albert's fucking getaway driver. Like, that's crazy that she got. And I think that's why I've always said this, that Chris Albert and Jennifer McCabe are the two most involved McAlberts and the two most vocal and out there and seem to be doing the most stuff because they are the two people whose children are involved and they're acting with the most fire underneath them because their kids' lives are on the line.
I don't know what they're involved in or what they did. All I know is that they all acted really suspicious and like criminals after the fact. And to me, that's the bottom line for the defense is they don't have to know. And they don't have to prove anything. But what we can establish is that these people were doing things that's very suspicious and not what innocent people do. And they wouldn't have done it unless they were covering up something. And how could that something be anything other than something related to John O'Keefe? I mean, it's just, we're not unintelligent people here. It's obvious that that's what it's related to.
That's what it boils down to is if you're not looking at Karen Reed for the death of John O'Keefe, there's only one other place to look at, and that is inside 34 Fairview.
Right. Exactly. Catherine sends $5, says, thank you, Aidan and panel. Horrible investigation. You're goddamn right about that. Lisa sends $10, says, you're the best. Thank you for what you do. You're very welcome. Thank you for the dono, Lisa. Pierpont Fisher sends $5 and says, 4 p.m. Tuesday, the Commonwealth was going to call a law enforcement witness. But there's no court Tuesday, so that's gonna be hard, Pierpont. So thank you very much. Russell sends $5 and says, "Mark, please call 𝗫𝗏𝗄𝐺 Chief Wiggum once." Okay,
Chief
Wiggum. Chief Wiggum. Nice. All right.
The first time we heard the story, him just driving by and like, oh look, there's a big glass. I mean, it just reminded me of like Chief Wiggum. In this
you called him that before?
I did. Yeah, I did.
That's a good one. I like that. Jay Nora sends $5, says, "Mark, is this similar to the Central Park 5?"
Well, look, there's a lot of disagreement actually in the old office that I used to work in, which prosecuted that case. That case also had a lot of, racial overtones. That's a whole different story than what this is. Someone else confessed to that crime. We don't have that here. Many people think that the kids involved or the men now involved in that case were innocent of the rape of Tricia Melfi, who's the one who was raped in that case, but we're doing something else in the park. So it's really not something that would be a good comparison case, I don't think.
Okay. Next one here. We have $20 from Michael Ward, says, where is the gallon of blood that John lost? Oh, I know the answer to that one. It's in Brian Albert's floorboards that he got rid of. That's the right answer. There we go.
It's with Chloe.
Yeah, it's with Charlie spends $15 and says the glare regarding Higgins' stream is gold. Hope men pay attention. Okay. Thank you, Charlie Lynn. All right. Jay the girl sends $5 and says there's still no cause or time of death. So I do have some more turtle chats. I'll end with the other turtle chats if anyone else wants their message read. then they can cash. But we're getting a little late here, so you can click at the link at the top for the turtle chat or cash at me at $ Uncle Turtle Boy. I wanted to tell you who I'm most looking forward to for the witnesses going forward. Obviously, a lot of people are going to say Proctor, Bukkake, people like that. But I think an underrated one. Oh, first of all, Lucky Loughran is going to we have the plow driver who insists there's going to be fucking such a I've talked to Lucky Loughran before. He gets offended when you ask him maybe there was a body there and you didn't see it. He's going to insist, no, motherfucker. And he's going to introduce the Ford Edge. The jurors for the first time are going to hear that a car was parked outside at 3:00 in the morning in the exact spot where John's body was found. And to this day, the police have done nothing to follow up on that. And 3 members of the Albert family own a Ford Edge. The jury has not heard that information yet. That's going to be fucking, you think it's going bad for them now. Think that. Another person I'm looking forward to hearing from a lot is the medical examiner. Because because the medical examiner is a problem for the defense. No, right now
for the defense.
No, thus far, because they hide behind the medical examiner. They hide.
You're saying that DA is giving the impression someone's going to come in here and.
Well, what I'm saying is the McAlbert Mafia, one of their big things is, you think you're smarter than a medical examiner? The medical examiner's in on it too. That's what they always say.
The medical examiner is going to have to, with a straight face, explain some very difficult questions, which is, when you do an autopsy and you're a forensic pathologist and all of that, you have a cause of death and a manner of death. A manner of death, the homicide, suicide, accident, whatever. And, a cause of death could be car accident, shooting, whatever. And they couldn't determine either of those two, except not from a fight, apparently was jotted down on something, which clearly comes from the cops who were pressuring the medical examiner to say that. So the medical examiner is going to have to say, I couldn't tell you the cause or the manner or the cause, except to tell you that it wasn't this. And that's going to be a tough nut to crack. And, you can throw hypotheticals in a medical sense at these witnesses. And when you start talking about a car accident of 25 miles an hour, stationary target, 60 feet, and there's a blunt trauma, where would you expect to see trauma, broken bones, injuries? And there's nothing on his body. I mean, none of us are doctors, obviously, but the only thing that you even see on his body that lay persons like us could even think for a second could have made impact is the back of his head. But that doesn't really make any sense when you picture what's going on at the scene. So
didn't you see Plevin's reenactment?
Have you seen it?
Car on the wrong side of the screen.
That's been played on Court TV.
So bad. That's journalistic malpractice to put that on TV. That's just misleading what happened. I don't understand that. I mean,
he's on every night at prime time.
Good for him. That's fine. But that video never should have seen. I mean, some editor probably got fired for that. That was bad.
Yeah. Well, in fairness, he's literally the only person from their side who has made any attempt to explain John's injuries. No one on the other side has even attempted to explain how did this dude who landed on grass have freaking a gash in the back of his head, black eyes, and no injuries to anything below his nose. No one has attempted to explain that.
I don't know how they're going to deal with the polycarbonate light either, which is a shatterproof type of plastic glass that you can't even break it with a hammer. How did his blunt body at 20 miles an hour break? That makes no sense to me.
So how did it break Karen Reed going 2 miles an hour in reverse?
I don't know. Maybe if he hit
so dense. This is a piece of taillight right here. And it's so dense that
you just have that around.
Well, I happened to find it, and I used it for a live stream to demonstrate more or less
how to become a dog toy.
And I still have it here. I still have it here, but it's ridiculously dense. I can't imagine someone's bones not breaking from hitting this. I can't imagine. It's crazy.
Well, and a car weighs John's Chevy Traverse probably weighed 5,000 pounds, and it's made of metal. And if you go into it at the right angle,
it's an angle thing. Yeah,
it's a 5,000-pound force pushing back on you. And I suppose that could, absolutely crack it.
But how do you explain 45 pieces?
No, you can't explain that. You can't explain that. But you can explain how Karen
Right.
Reed's taillight was cracked in the first place. Yeah.
It just, if they were gonna look, whether they planted evidence or not, I mean, you start to believe they must have had to and just didn't know that it was polycarbonate, or how did they break it? They would have had to like spray it with stuff. I mean, you can't just, I don't know, but you can't just shatter it with a hammer. I don't even think.
And how is she going to explain when under cross-examination from Alan Jackson? How can you say there's no defensive wounds? Have you seen his hand? How can you conclude that there are no defensive wounds when his hand is black and blue like that? What's she going to say?
It could be livor mortis. Maybe, when people die, their blood will go like it's gravity. I don't even know if his hands were at the bottom, literally the lowest point of gravity. And I don't know what the pictures look like. I haven't seen them recently. It's not inconceivable that if you were positioned that way, that you would get apparent bruising because all your blood is going to go to the low points, which is why I think when you saw his back and like his back area was all purple and bruised, that's probably livor mortis. But I wouldn't be shocked if she tries to say that, but they have their own expert who will, give you a perfect answer too.
And that's the other thing, the other people I'm looking forward to. I'm looking at the defense list now. It's fucking we have no idea how awesome this trial's about to get when the defense goes. I'm like looking at these experts, 3 solid nerds from like that company ARCA that does accident crash reconstruction. That's what they do. That's their thing. One guy does head injuries in particular. That they're going to be so good.
Not only that, usually the argument for experts, as you can imagine, is, well, they're just paid whores by either side who'll say anything. These guys are going to be able to establish, when were you retained? And it's going to be a weird time, and who retained you? Now, they're not going to be able to say the FBI, but not us. In other words, they're going to establish.
Why can't they say FBI?
Because that's part of the judge's. I think that the judge
she
would
says if it comes up.
Well, if the witness says so, why wouldn't it?
Ryan Nagel said feds.
I don't think he's going to interpret that as a full blown. The FBI hired these witnesses who all say there was no car accident. That I think the point is, what I think is going to happen is it's going to be established. We did not retain these experts. We did not ask you to prepare anything, and that to the extent they're paying him, they're going to only be paying them for their time in court now. And it's an end around, but the jury is going to know that these are the guys from the other proceeding, or whether you want to call it FBI investigation, if it did come out. Point being that these are not hired guns. These are hired by government people who frequently testify for the government. And then the DA is not even going to have a rebuttal witness. They don't even have.
I was going to say, they don't have a hired gun. They don't even have a hired. They don't have somebody.
This is like
the crash.
Prosecutorial suicide to try a case like this.
They're going to have Trooper Paul come on, and Trooper Paul is going to say that, well, yeah, her brakes worked and the camera worked, so she must have done it. She must have done this on purpose. Frank Sheridan, the forensic pathologist from San Bernardino County, who has seen tens of thousands of bodies, is going to testify that those are dog mark bites on covering John. They're going to have the 2 women who were eaten by the dog come on there. Like, they're going to testify. They're going to have Proctor's stupid wife come on there, and she's going to have to explain why Jen McCabe was at her house on September 25th and why she's making phone calls to people's workplaces for leaving comments about her husband on Facebook. She's going to be fucking wild.
Aren't there phone calls between the wives where it's almost like the scene in Casino where, they give the phone to the wives to get off the men's cell phone? Weren't there? I thought there were like weird phone calls between Proctor's wife and somebody else's.
Proctor's sister and the McAlberts offering gifts. And he's like, no, give it to my wife. Give it to the wife, not me. Can't go to me. The gift can't go to me. Give it to my wife.
I'm too ethical for that. Meanwhile, get me her phone. Let's look for more pictures. But
I know, right? Oh, how did he explain that one to
Mark?
her?
How do you think, by the way, the female jurors are going to react when they hear that?
Because guess what? You know what, Mark? That's a great point. There's 10 of them. And these aren't like these do
Oh,
not look like
wow.
these do not
Yeah.
look like women who are like it looks like feminists. Like it looks like women who aren't going to like that just by looking at them.
Every woman's worst nightmare is a rogue cop who takes their phone and just starts looking and texts his high school meathead. buddy.
Yes.
You know, I'm looking for nudes and I haven't found any yet, as if I'm not done looking. And
because you know who's on the witness list is the guy Proctor texted that to is on the witness list.
Good.
So he's going to tell us like, yeah, this dude was like telling me he's trying to like look through and find her shit. Like, yeah.
Mark,
Do
I
you
got a
think
quick question.
Bev is? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, man. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I get a quick question, and not to kind of, I just want to go back to injuries, John's injuries work. Sorry to make everybody go back because we're kind of past that. But when they do any type, when the medical examiner does their examination, is it more of a visual examination, or like, let's just say, for instance, like John's hand, we've seen the injury to John's hand, the bruising, we were just talking about that. Would they take an x-ray of that as well too? Because my always curious thing was, did he have like what's called a boxer's fracture, like a defensive wound boxer fracture, or is it just more of a visual?
I don't know
inspection?
how much they would do with his hands, but I mean, an autopsy itself is a horrible thing. I mean, they cut you up everywhere. They take everything out, weigh it. I mean, if you've never seen like a full autopsy photo as opposed to just like dead body pictures, it's pretty bad. But I don't think that they would necessarily do anything, but they would certainly take a ton of pictures of his hands, and they put their little slide rulers next to it to show you that kind of thing. If there were any specific injuries, they might look deeper. But, it's interesting when you say they should look for a boxer's injury. That's an interesting question on cross-examination, since she's so sure it couldn't have been from a fight.
Well, it can't be it can't be the boxers, because that is a broken bone, right? It's a fit your right fifth metacarpal.
Well, then they would know that. They clearly would know. If there was a broken bone, they would know.
A boxer's fracture is a broken bone, so it can't be broken. Yeah,
they would know that.
And so actually the best witness would be Karen Reed, obviously herself. I went into this because Karen has told me before in conversations that she plans to testify. I would hope at this point her plan has changed, because there's no fucking reason to. Right. And I would argue that the worst thing Karen Reed has going against her is her personality could turn the jury off. Right. Like that's she does. I'm not saying it has already, but you run that risk, I think, when you testify. So why the fuck would you run that risk? Like if she got up there and she just rubbed the juror the wrong way, because guess what? Her personality is the only reason that I think Carl Dougal and the O'Keefes, right, are going along with this bullshit. I think that one of Karen Reed's fatal flaws in this whole thing was not just fucking sending Carl Dougal a text message back and just if she had made fucking Carl Dougal feel better about himself, there would be less fucking pushback from their side. Because that is literally the only thing that they're holding against this fucking woman, is she hurt stupid Carl Dougal's feelings, and she hurt Paul O'Keefe's feelings, and she just rubbed them the wrong way. So I think that the only thing that could hurt Karen Reed is her personality. So don't put her on the stand.
So the choice to testify is one of basically three things that absolutely belongs to the client. They take advice from a lawyer. You can be sure, I don't want to speak for these guys, they're certainly very qualified and know what they're doing, but I'm as positive can be without knowing really what goes on inside their camp. They're not going to want her to testify. There's no reason for her to testify. Yeah. Ultimately, she has to agree with that, but I would imagine that she would listen to very experienced and talented counsel and would tell the judge that I'm not going to testify. There's no need to. If she did, you're subjecting yourself to cross-examination, all kinds of things that it's not necessary. I mean, you're not going to move the needle. It's not worth the risk. Everything is risk assessment, and you're winning. So why turn it into a referendum for the jury to say, do I believe her or not? And then all of a sudden they vote on that rather than the fact that there's no case.
Yep. And you know, like, I think like Paul O'Keefe would be more open to the, the idea that this was a conspiracy if Karen did not get involved with me. I think I think at some point they were like, fuck Karen Reed for creating this circus. I think they blame her for that. You know what I mean? And I think that they have just have these fucking blinders on at this point, and they're just like, I don't really give a shit. I don't fucking like her. She can go fuck herself. And that's why I think the only thing that can hurt her is her personality, and there's just no fucking reason at all to get on that stand. That's just my thought.
And you just have to accept the fact that if you don't testify, a lot of the people that already don't like you and think you're guilty are going to, subscribe to the crazy Wendy Murphy theory of that proves you're guilty. And it may even be some of the O'Keefe family never comes around and, supports her if she doesn't testify, but that's not a reason to testify.
I just feel bad for the O'Keefe family because every day those witnesses get up on that stand. No, every day those witnesses get up on the stand, I'm like, these are the fucking people you're rolling with. Like, are you kidding me?
Nah, fuck that. They have agency. They're not stupid. Like they choose to. Peggy O'Keefe chooses to allow Jennifer McCabe to come over her house, be around her grandchildren. She sits with her sisters in court. They're not enough with I've said this and I've taken a lot of shit for it, but they're not children. Okay. They know what they're doing. They're making a conscious choice to ignore mountains of information that show that they are surrounding themselves with John's killers.
I can't come after the mother of a murder victim, and they could be manipulated. And, look, they hear what they want to hear. I know you're rolling your eyes, but they're told by the DA that this is a theory. They go with it. I see this all the time. It's sad, but it's, for me, it's hard for me to look at his parents and say that they've got agency over this. They want to believe that justice will be the person being charged is guilty, and can't fathom the idea that if she gets acquitted, then what? Because the reality is there probably never will be anyone who gets convicted of murder unless something crazy happens in the federal case and somebody rolls, and you're not going to find anything. The crime scene, as is destroyed. There's no evidence of anyone else doing anything. So they think that they're going to get justice if she goes down, when the reality is if she didn't do it or she's not guilty, well, that's not justice for anybody, including Karen Reed or John O'Keefe, if she goes down just to make them feel better. But I have a hard time blaming his parents for sitting down with Jen McCabe. They could be getting exploited by these people.
I think
this whole time.
I think it's harsh to come after the mother. I
don't think it's not coming after. It's like, I think that demeans them when you say that, like, they're just so easily manipulated. They're unable to think for themselves. I think that demeans them.
They have a kid who was murdered. I think that impacts your judgment in a lot of ways.
My mother would not be that easily manipulated. My mother is like a strong-willed Irish woman. She would not be easy. She would tell Jennifer McCabe to get the fuck out of her house. You shady bitch. At the very least, she would say, I don't know who to trust here, and I don't want to be surrounded by any of you. Leave me alone. I'm not going to be associated with you people. But she proudly walks into court with them. The day I lost complete respect for them is February 26th, when I found out Paul O'Keefe invited the woman who lied and put me in jail into court. Like, he sought out an ex-girlfriend of mine and brought her to court to his brother's murder trial hearings, like turning his own brother's murder hearing into a fucking circus. That was the day I lost any sort of, respect or any sadness for Paul O'Keefe when he pulled a fucking stunt like that. That's
a regrettable thing to do. There's no question that's not good. And also, you see him in the courtroom and you can't ignore the looks that he is clearly giving, but it's a tough call. His brother was murdered, yet it's not appropriate to look at her that way. The jury sees it. And, I don't think
so. You think the jury is turned off by the way he stares at her?
They're looking right across from him. It's a tiny courtroom, which is bad enough. And if you're leaning in, staring at her with a glare like that, how could they not see it? I don't know that there's anything you can do about it. But how do you not see that?
And he doesn't sit next to his mother either, which is, I don't know. Somebody pointed that out too. It is interesting now. It doesn't sit next to her, but
he also didn't say anything negative about her on the stand. And so the jury saw that too.
Yes. About Karen, when Paul and Karen went up. And that's what I mean by she should have called him back. She should have just fucking, you know what I mean? Like, it's very clear Paul and Aaron kind of liked Karen. Like they you know what I mean? They didn't want to believe she did this. but her not calling them back or whatever made them like, I'm not saying that's right of them. Like they should have fucking got over it, you know, but it's, I guess Karen Reed could be her own worst nightmare if she took the stand. That's what I'm worried about.
I think it's a non-starter. I mean, they're winning and they're winning by a lot, and it's going to get better. There's just no need for her to testify.
There's no, it is absolutely. Okay, cool. Let me, so anyway, does anybody have any more questions for them? What I'm going to do here is I'm going to take any questions from them for you guys. Then I'll let you go, and I'm going to read the rest of the turtle chats and call it a night. You guys have any questions for any of the panelists?
I have a question for Mark. Considering the fact that, I mean, because I feel like you agree with the rest of us that this should never even gone to trial, not even in indictment, right? Now, the defense before this trial started, the defense did file a motion to dismiss and disqualify Michael Morrissey, and Judge Bev approved it. But what's funny is at this point, 5 weeks in, I think it's fair to say that the predictions stated in this motion to dismiss and disqualify are coming to light, and those were their reasons. And their opposition motion didn't state anything except the stuff that Jen McCabe tried to bring up on the stand about Turtleboy and whatnot, right? So do you feel, based on that, if you agree with what I'm saying there, that Judge Bev could be held accountable legally after this, criminally, or reprimanded in any way?
Nope.
Wow. Even though it's so obvious, like that this should have never even.
Judges don't get removed or punished for judging, even judging incorrectly. And short of any proof, it happens more than you think. And I mean, I know her rulings and her demeanor, but no, I think when the case is over, she'll just move on to the next one. And, you know, people online will criticize her and she'll just.
It's the hackorama. That's what Howie calls it, the hackorama.
I mean, but what constitutes getting removed from the bench? Does it? I mean,
what's going to happen is she's going to see Karen Reed get acquitted, and she's going to address her and say, "You're all set," and that'll be the end of that.
How about this? What would you, if because she has to be thinking in her head, Bev has to be thinking in her head to prepare herself for a conviction or an acquittal, right? If
judges are not supposed to have opinions, but they're people, they're not stupid. She knows how this is going.
Right. She knows that she knows that there's two outcomes, conviction or acquittal, right? Or I guess mistrial. Right? Yeah. But if there is a conviction, do you think Bev will throw the book at Karen Reed for the media that has, been put on this?
That's a great question.
Yes. I mean, look, if she's convicted of murder, then think about the circumstances. Then the jury would have found that she viciously mowed her boyfriend down, left him there to die and freeze to death, suffering in this horrible way, then concocts a story, attacks these witnesses, falsely accuses them of doing all these terrible things. I'm going to be honest. Yes, she's going to blame she'll be blamed for whatever your situation is with what the Alberts are screaming and yelling about, and making a circus out of this and having no remorse. And I mean, if she's convicted, but it's not going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. We're talking about a fantasy world here, but it isn't. I do think about that. Like, what is Bev thinking about? I wonder if Bev hates Karen Reed. And because she's a human being, she must have opinions.
She hates her defense team. I'll tell you that right now.
Do you think?
Yeah, they're getting through it, but I mean, they don't seem to be the lawyers in her particularly close.
Like, I just think part of Bev has to resent Karen Reed for the media circus that's been created here. I think, especially after it came out that her and I were in communication a lot of the time, that has to piss her off.
I told myself when I came on here, what I didn't want to do is definitely talk about your situation just because it's not the trial, but there's one component of it which is disturbing. It doesn't relate to you directly, but it's in the context of your own thing. When that stunt happened a few weeks ago where they threw you out of there, that motion lumped her in Lally's motion where he was alleging what you were doing. He wrote in a publicly filed document in the middle of a jury trial, knowing that it could be publicized, that Karen Reed and her lawyers were conspiring with you. Don't even talk about it. But my point is to put that in a public filing in the middle of her jury trial, knowing that it was going to create a spectacle, people could read about it. God forbid jurors see about it. I mean, that's the kind of thing that could just prejudice her. And it was gratuitous. There was no reason to link her and her lawyers in that, other than to prejudice her and also to remind the judge, these are the people trying the case that look what they did to get to back to your point. And would there be punishment for that, even though she's not charged with anything related to that? Probably.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you're right. Like if she, like, it's not going to happen. She's not going to get convicted, but that would be obviously a complete fucking no. Just I couldn't imagine. Like, she's not going to show her mercy. She's going to be like, fuck you. You are going to get, you are going to get it. Like,
yeah, no. I mean, if she's convicted, it's a disaster, and it's decades in prison for sure.
Yeah.
Mark, I saw a question come up. I'm going to put you on the spot really quick.
Sure.
So everybody's asking in the chat, and they wanted, what do you think happened? If you want to comment.
I have no idea. And what I've said previously is one thing I'm certain of is that in terms of proving this beyond a reasonable doubt, it looks hopeless. And in my view, I have no idea what happened in the house. I have no idea whether John O'Keefe was in the house. But what I've said to people is that I think there's a pretty decent chance that she's actually innocent. And there's a lot of reasons for that. But the biggest thing that I come down to is, why were all these Alberts and McCabe's engaged in really, really weird, incriminating, strange behavior consistent with a cover-up, unless they were covering up something? And I don't know how a jury or any reasonable person ever gets past that. We haven't even talked about the accident reconstruction and all the other stuff. But you take in this cover-up with the missing evidence, missing video, the relationship with the cops, how they remembered that she said, I hit him, after they met with the cops, and this could go on. And I don't know how anyone can possibly feel confident that this is a case that belongs to the courtroom, unless and until a legitimate police investigation had closed every loophole and cleared all of these people. Short of that, I don't know how in good faith you can try someone for murder when there's all these other people acting really suspicious in some capacity with it. And I think it's unethical. I think it's immoral, and certainly improper.
Yeah. So
I agree.
All right. Do you guys have any more questions for Mark before we just kind of end the panel, or read some chats here?
That's it. I'm good.
Good. Okay. Well, I want to thank you. I'm going to read some chats in a minute, guys. But I want to thank all three of you guys for coming on. Like, as everyone says here, this has been an all-star panel. It's been a great thing. I mean, I thought about, like, what the hell am I going to do tonight? There's no new content to talk about. So let's just have a panel. Panels are fun. Panels are fun.
Yeah.
You know? So,
thank you,
and
Mark.
especially, I've had these other guys on before. They're great. But Mark, thank you for joining us and sharing your insight as a criminal defense attorney. Really appreciate it.
All right. Take care,
All right, guys. Have a great night. Peace, guys. All right. So let me just bang through some turtle chats here. Anthony sends $25. Says, why isn't Steve Scanlon on the defense witness list? Because he's an asshole. I mean, Steve Scanlon, I've talked to him before, as you guys know. He testified in the grand jury. Can't say what he talked about. Wasn't indicted for what they question him about. But he is kind of backpedaling. Like, he definitely went to Yannetti and told him all the shit. And now he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. No. I went to Yannetti, and why'd you go to Yannetti on February 3rd and tell him that John was inside the house? Oh, I just had a feeling, it didn't sound right. So I went to him. So you went to him on like a feeling? Like, he would be the worst witness. Like, if you've ever heard Steve Scanlon talk, he sounds shady. Like, he sounds shady. Like, you do not, he was honest. Like, at first, when he went to Yannetti and he told him this on February 3rd, he was he really got the ball rolling on this. He's the guy that first kind of put it in their heads, like that. Oh yeah, this is what makes sense. This makes a lot more sense. But then he didn't want to like go under oath. Like, he kind of wanted to be behind the scenes. So he would be a bad witness. So that's a good question. Thank you, Anthony. $10 from Kelly says, Mrs. Fitzy loves hearing from this 4-pack of a team, providing common sense to all this. Great panel. I mean, this is a great show tonight. I really enjoyed it. Thank you. Steve-O sends $10. Haas, many members of the Team Albert are probably watching right now. All of them. They all watch everything we do. They love it. Shout out to all the Discord assholes who watch this on one. They think they're like killing me because they go on Discord and they watch it together, like 15 of them. And they're like, he's got 15 less views because of us. We outsmarted him. Yeah, sure he did. But you know, it's not going well for them. Like when Kearney gets acquitted, it's just gonna be dope. And the best part about this, like for years, that what they said to me was like, he's not going anywhere. His career is like Turtleboy's dying and blah, blah, blah. They're not saying that anymore. Obviously, obviously my popularity and views have just gone fucking through the roof. It's been hard to miss, you know? So their new thing here is he's a grifter. Like, he's like, yeah, he's very successful and has a huge following, but it's all a cult. He's just a grifter. Like they can no longer deny the success of Turtleboy. So they have to point out, like, they have to go like, oh, well, Turtleboy's unethical. You know, that's their new thing. So thank you for that one. Next one. Let's see. First off, from Grant Smith Ellis's chair line, sends $5. Says, first off, Mark is jealous the courts have recognized my mother for Rule 11 awesomeness. Also, is Lalli getting close to ethical issues, especially allowing witnesses to lie on the stand? That's a good point. Thank you very much. I mean, he's not, I mean, I don't know how the fuck that works, but thank you, Grant Smith Ellis's chair line. K10 AZ sends $10 and says, on another channel, it was stated O'Keefe called in a drug dealing situation, and that call was intercepted by Kevin Albert. Okay. Is this a motive? Any insight? No. We've been down that road before with the drugs, and no, I have nothing to add with that. I don't do that, you know. I don't go to, I have no evidence of that. So thank you very much. Jackie sends $5. Says, 𝗂𝗏𝗍𝗪 is tweeting about tonight's live with the screenshot. Should I go check that out? About jury intimidation is real. I love you guys and want you to know ASAP. So let's check this out. Let's check out 𝗂𝗏𝗍𝗪's. Okay, let's see what she's saying. Oh, yes, she is. Okay. All right. So she's got 53 minutes ago. I can't bring her up on the screen because she's got me blocked. So I have a bunch of alts here where I go on and I read the people who have me blocked. So 𝗂𝗏𝗍𝗪 says, for those who wonder why I am concerned about those involved in the case tampering with the jurors or otherwise intimidating them, the concern is real. They don't care. They are aligned. They will call jurors. Their intent from the beginning was to affect the jury. Have they succeeded? This is what you say when you know the jury's going to come back with not guilty. They've already braced for this. Like, the jury's going to acquit. And they're going to be like, he tampered with the jury. Like, that's going to be, they're already braced. That's what this bullshit is. Literally none of us are tampering with the jury. Like, we don't need to, Jennifer. We're winning. Like, it's not going well for you. I would never do that anyway, but we don't have to do that. We're fucking winning by a million. You don't need to cheat. It's like when the Patriots won 45-7 over the Colts. And then they complained about fucking deflated footballs. They're like, are you fucking kidding me? We don't need to cheat to win. We beat your ass 45-7. We're not fucking losing to you. So anyway, and no, they don't care about John O'Keefe versus family. Not in the least. No, cunt. We do. You don't. You filthy, disgusting, lying whore. Jennifer 𝗂𝗏𝗍𝗪. That's what you are. You lying sack of shit whore. You trespassing on people's lawns like the Pink Panther. And when you die, Jennifer 𝗂𝗏𝗍𝗪, no one's going to miss you. Literally no one. The world will be a better place without you. And you are going to rot in eternal hell where you belong. You're actually a horrible fucking person. You're pure evil. Just fucking, I don't want you to kill yourself. I don't want you to, I'm not going to say anything like that. But when you die, it will be a great thing. Just like it was when Brian Riccio died. It was imagine Brian Riccio was alive for this fucking trial right now. How much better is the world without Brian Riccio? It's the same thing with 𝗃𝗏𝗍𝗂𝗧. If 𝗃𝗏𝗍𝗂𝗧 died tomorrow, the world is instantly a better place, like instantly. So thank you for that. Okay. Karen Reed's accused of murdering. Let's see. So then she posted some videos. Let's see what the videos say of me. They're all of me. All right, here's one.
Impoundment of jurors' names during trial. That's one they're going for. Why do you think they want to impound the jurors' names? Because who outed the 𝗪𝗏𝗃 juror? Remember that? The one woman on the who hung the Michael 𝗪𝗏𝗃 trial in, what was that, July? The jury lists are public. So I got the jury list and I went down the list and I found the juror who hung the jury. And I shamed them, as I should, because it's shameful to do that to City Gusna and Michael 𝗪𝗏𝗃's parents and Michael 𝗪𝗏𝗃's kids. It's shameful. So why wouldn't I do that?
So I guess she's in favor. I guess she's in favor of the juror who didn't vote to convict a cop killer. And by the way, we posted that woman's name after. Like it's after the case, not during. We didn't go up to her and be like, you need to vote to convict this guy who killed Michael 𝗪𝗏𝗃. We didn't do that. We just shamed her afterwards. You stupid fucking idiot. But you know that. You know that, Jennifer. How about this one?
Continue to spread the word. Every single person in Norfolk County needs to know the truth about Karen Reed and John O'Keefe.
Yeah.
They are trying to affect the jury pool.
Yes.
Yeah, that's exactly what I...
Yes. Every single person needs to know the truth about John O'Keefe and Karen Reed. I said that. I definitely said that. See, that's the thing. Jennifer 𝗃𝗏𝗍𝗂𝗧 doesn't want the public to know the truth about Karen Reed and John O'Keefe because she doesn't give a fuck about John O'Keefe, which is why she's going to rot in eternal fucking hell where she belongs. You pig. I know you're watching this, Jennifer 𝗃𝗏𝗍𝗂𝗧. My success bothers you. I probably have more. I'm about to pass you for Twitter followers. Okay. People believe me because I'm telling the truth. People fucking hate you because you're a filthy, disgusting liar and you know it. You fucking know it, you filthy, disgusting pig. You didn't come into this story until like August or July of last year. You could have chosen the side of justice and truth, and you chose the side of evil. Burn in eternal hell, you fucking pig. Next. We are. Yeah, we tried to, and guess what? We got to a lot of people, and none of those people got on the jury. None of them. So what the fuck are you talking about? Next. What this? Oh, they're gonna play this one. This the Krusty Panties video. Turtleboy's mean to the O'Keefes. They're going to play that one. They love that one. Okay. Yeah, I'm mean to Peggy O'Keefe. Well, Peggy O'Keefe was kind of a cunt to me, so I don't really care. Like, sorry, I'm a human being. She's a human being. Where's Lindsay? She says, where's Lindsay? Fuck off, Peggy. That's what I think of you. Anyway, so yeah. Sorry, yeah. I'm fighting for your son. Sorry that you're not, but not even your cuntiness is not going to stop me from fighting for your son. Sorry. Sorry, not sorry, actually. All right, so there's that. You can't hear? Oh, you couldn't hear that. Okay. I also, somebody sent me Jill Daniels is on a tear tonight. She goes, I think she's in this group called Karen Reed Trial, not Free Karen Reed. She says, I think so many people missed the sentence highlighted in purple. And it says, in some, the federal documents are consistent with the Commonwealth's theory of the case and debunk the defendant's allegation of a cover-up. So she's citing a Commonwealth motion that says there's nothing to see here. Okay, good job, Jill Daniels. Good job. Good job. Do we have another thing here? She had another post today. She's so like Jill Daniels writes, this side is 100% innocent. So I guess I can't stick up for my family, but they can stick up for a woman they don't know who is actually charged with this heinous crime. Yeah. I got attacked for standing up for my family who's been accused of harassing their friend. What? Yeah. Yeah, that is exactly. All the evidence is just starting to come out, she says. Yeah, sure it is, Jill. Sure it is. This side was told to keep their mouths shut and just wait until trial. Yeah, you did a great job of that, Jill. You really, because when I think of Jill Daniels, the first thing I think of is shutting her mouth. Right. You're really good at that, Jill. Shutting your mouth. Sure you are. Make it make sense. No, she goes, that is exactly what they did, even though they were harassed and stalked. Yeah, you think Jen McCabe kept her mouth shut? Yeah. I admire all, and even as that people on their side called in fake domestic abuse calls. Who did that? There was only one fake domestic abuse call called in, and it was called in by the fake victim who was talked to Jill Daniels on December 26th, the day I was arrested. And you wait till you see their conversation that they had together. Wait till you see the conversation between the fake victim and Jill Daniels on December 26th. You're going to shit yourself. It says, I admire all their strength because every human has a breaking point. Karen and her team created all these lies, and they are all going to be proven that they are all just lies. Right. Sure they are, Jill. I mean, do they believe this? Do they believe this? Karen took a life. No. Ruined families. Well, your family ruined itself. Your family's definitely ruined, but you kind of did that to yourself, Jill. Divided a town. Nope, you guys did that. Told lie after lie. And it's not really that divided. Like, we outnumber you by a lot. So much more. And not one tear shed as of yet in court. I didn't see any tears from Brian Albert or any of the, like, I saw fake ones from Jen McCabe, but she laughs and smiles a whole lot, but she will not win. Jill, I got bad news for you. She's going to win. She's going to win, my dear. She's going to win. Truth will out her behind, but will put her behind bars. No, like, do they believe this? Do they really think? Does Jill Daniels really believe Karen Reed's going to be convicted? That's what I mean by two separate realities that we're living in. It's just wild. I cannot wait for that guilty verdict, she says. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Anyway, so she's on one today. Next one. $5 from Mary says, Mark, can the defense call a surprise witness not already listed on the witness list? I don't think they can, but I could be wrong. I don't know. Jody sends $10, says, do you think the defense has the basement and bulkhead doors as evidence, along with the John O'Keefe steps into the basement and out? I don't know if they have the doors as evidence. Probably not. Melissa sends $34 and says, library cam, 2 questions. Is that the right amount of snow? I don't know. Does Canton leave up Christmas decorations until January 29th? I noticed that too. I did notice the Christmas decorations were still up in Canton on January 29th. It was just extremely tacky, if I do say so. Bang, bang. I know that sounds like a felony, but I mean it sexually. Oh, as long as you mean it sexually, Melissa. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Rob sends $5, says, who would be the most unexpected but reasonable suspect for killing John O'Keefe? Brian Albert. Boom. Done. Caitlin sends $5, says, wish list, Jessica Machado. Hey, yeah, I could have Jess on sometime. Natalie, the lawyer chick, don't know her. Melanie Little. Don't know if Melanie would come on, but she's invited to. I've reached out to her, having her back, but you know, she's more than welcome to. Would love to have her on. The lawyer, you know, actually, I've talked to him on Twitter before. We've DM'd, but I've never seen him go on other panels. Does he do that? I don't know. And the DUI guy, I've had Larry on a couple times. Been on his show several times. Been out to dinner with him twice. Larry's a great guy. Definitely will have him back on again. Absolutely. What won in the poll, by the way? What won in the poll? Wow, 62% say I should stay in the courtroom. I'm surprised by that. You guys don't think verdict party? You guys don't like verdict party idea? I mean, it would be historic to be in the courtroom, but I want to celebrate with the people. I can't celebrate. Like, you can, as a member of the press, I can't be like, fuck yeah, let's go. Let's go. After it comes out not guilty. I belong there, no doubt, Mary Poppin. No doubt about that. I definitely belong there, you know, but I can't be myself. Like, I can't be like, fuck yeah, I got to keep my professionalism in there, you know. We all agree I deserve to be there, but like the part, and people are saying party after, totally get it. Totally get that. But part of the fun is the excitement of being around people when that verdict comes in at the moment, because you're never going to get that moment back, right? It's one huge moment. It's a culmination of everything when you hear the words "not guilty" coming out on that day. Like, it's going to be dope. It's going to be dope. So anyway, I mean, because again, 𝗬𝗏𝗍𝗺, I mean, this is what I'm saying. Both have a party and you walk out after the verdict. I want to be with my homies, you know, my people, when we win. It's kind of like, it's like having a party after the Patriots win the Super Bowl, and then you have a party afterwards to celebrate that. No, you want to be with your guys when the Super Bowl is won. You know what I mean? That's the fun of it all. I'm leaning towards party. I'm surprised so many people said courtroom, but anyway, whatever. Good problem to have, I suppose. Karen sends $10, says, I've been following Mr. Bederow recently. He is so well-spoken, well-researched, detailed, relatable, entertaining, and legally brilliant. What a gift to this case and legal jewel. Glad you found him, Turtleboy. He is. That's what I listen. I hadn't listened to him on the Young Jerks. I know I follow him on Twitter. He's really good on Twitter. I've never heard him speak before. And then I heard him speak on STS last night. And it's like, oh man, this guy's good. This guy's sharp. You know, I got to get him on. He'd be a great, great guy to have on. So definitely enjoyed having him on tonight. Next is Cassandra sends 10 and says, can you speak to Colin Albert's phone call to Aaron Beatty at 12:33? Have many times before. Did it looking for an alibi. And Gemma Cave's reference to calling Tom Beatty at 5 a.m. Are the Beattys on the defense witness list? Yes, they are. Jen called Tom at 5 a.m. to make sure Aaron and Tom were in line. That's what that was for. That's why he didn't call Tom Beatty to be like, is John there? She called Tom Beatty to be like, you guys are team players, right? You know, you're not going to say shit, right? About that call that Colin made to you. You keep that to yourself. Right. That's what that was for. Gina sends 5, says, you're underestimating my theory. Higgins was upset that he got ghosted. Drinks were involved. He outed Karen. A fight broke out. Okay. Sure. I mean, that's your theory, Gina. One thing, and you're right. You send a turtle chat, you can say whatever theory you want. And that's fine. If you send me an email, and I get these every day, dozens of these, and you start your email off with, here's my theory. Immediately delete. I just delete the message and I don't read it. And I feel bad because some of these people write these whole fucking long paragraphs, and I'm trying to save you the time. If you start off a message to me with, here's my theory about the case, I am immediately deleting it. I won't even consider reading it. Do not bother. Like, if I had to fucking spend all day reading your theories and responding to them, I would get nothing done. So this is the humanitarian in me that feels bad for you. For your sake, for your own time, just go and post it in the Justice Group, or go and post it on your Facebook page or your Twitter. Do not email me your theories. Immediately delete. Delete. Spam it too. Like, I don't want to hear from you again. Delete this person. Never want to hear from you. So that's that. Thank you. Just trying to help out. Do we have any cash apps here? By the way, we hit 7.8 thousand tonight. Another record. How about that? And we're going to hit 10,000 soon. It's coming, baby. 10,000 live viewers. Paula sends $50. Thank you. And her comment is, for all you have done for the case, fuck the Roccos. Again, I'm done crapping on the Roccos. I've said what I need to say about them. But this person sent $50, so I'm going to read what they wrote. So there's that. My thoughts on the Roccos are well documented, and you can go and listen to other streams, previous streams I've put on if you'd like to hear those. So thank you, Paula, for that, Dono. What else do we have here? And view personalized note. Okay. Thank you, Paul. Krista sends $5. Can you give my mom, Alice, a shout out? Shout out, Mama Alice. How you doing? Hopefully you enjoyed the program tonight. Glad you liked the show. I hear that all the time. I went out again last night in Southie, and people, you know, there's a lot of young people in Southie. It's really alive there. It's kind of cool place. And, you know, people come up to me, and like these girls came up to me last night, and they're like probably 25 or something like that. And, you know, they asked, take a picture and shit. And it's always the same story. You know, my mom is going to love you. Oh, and you know who else I got confronted last night? So by Corey Matthews, and I hope he's listening right now. So let me pull this one up. So do you guys remember after the St. Patrick's Day parade in Southie, I published this. There was a fight. There was a big fight, a really vicious one. It was black kids against a white kid. Remember that? And it was like this fight went kind of viral, and the police were looking for the people who did it. Remember this story? They kicked this kid down the hill. Yep. Look at that. Oh! Now watch this at the end. Okay, see this kid? Look at this kid who comes into the foreground here. Watch this. See how he points and laughs at him?
Get down to the ground. Oh shit, he's bleeding. Is he? Fuck, dude, is he bleeding?
Right.
Oh shit.
Oh, then he gets up. He climbs.
He's bleeding, bro.
Actually, look at this shit. Look at this. He's bleeding, bro. Look at that shit.
Fuck, dude, is he bleeding? Oh shit. Fuck, he's bleeding, bro. Oh fuck.
All right. So anyway, so I write this. So I'm walking last night, and there's these 4 kids, like younger looking kids that are walking by. They're probably like teenagers, and they're like, Turtleboy? And I'm like, yeah. And they came over, and they were like, oh, they were definitely drunk or something. Oh, what's up? Blah, blah, blah. And this kid's like, you wrote about me. I'm like, what? I wrote about you? What did I write about? He goes, you called me Corey Matthews. I'm like, you do kind of look like Corey Matthews. But, you know, Corey Matthews hooked up with Topanga. And they were like, oh, shit. They loved it. Like, yo, Topanga's fucking hot. It's like a good point, Turtleboy. You know, I even crapped on you, but there's a silver lining there, you know. And he's like, you said that I was pointing at the kid and laughing at him, and that I was involved. Okay. So Corey Matthews showed me last night a video he had, right? From his angle of this, he's actually innocent. He was not with the thugs. He's like, I was at afterwards, everybody's drunk. And I thought that this was like a drunk guy that kind of, you know, lost his balance and fell down the hill. And that happens a lot, you know, at the St. Patrick's Day. It's everybody's hammered, you know, and that would be funny. And I get that. That would kind of be funny if that happened. So he didn't see, and he shows me his back was turned to the fight. He missed the whole kicking him down the hill thing. He thought this kid just fell down, which is still kind of mean to laugh at him, even if he fell, right? But he says he, you know, although on second, let me see this again. Is that possible? Is his story plausible? Okay, look at this. Kicks him. Boom. Look at, dude, this is heavy. Oh. Okay, then they throw shit at him. And now, see, I don't know if I buy Corey Matthews' story. Because, see, he comes in now. And his back isn't to them anymore. And so, see, he throws something right there. Corey Matthews saw that. He saw them throw something at a body on the ground. So he can't say he didn't. I don't know. I met Corey Matthews. I told him last night, okay, I go, I'll talk about this on my show tomorrow. But now that I watched it again, I'm not completely buying his story, Corey Matthews. I don't know. There's just something about that. It just, he insisted though. He did show me a video he had that just, his video starts. Where's his phone, by the way? How is he videoing this? He's not even holding a phone. I don't know. There's something shady about his story. Anyway, regardless, there's that. So yeah, I mean, I'm just out last night and it's just crazy. Everywhere I go, man, it's wild. It's fucking fun. It's not gonna lie, it's funny every time it happens. But they always come up, they tell me like they want to take a picture with me. And if they're like 25, it's always the same thing. My mom wants it. My mom's gonna love this. My mom's gonna love this. It's never them. They never like want it for their own purposes. They're always like, my mom wants it. I'm extremely popular with like 50-year-old moms with 2 kids in college. Like that's like my target demographic at this point. Okay. Anybody else? Let's see. Do we have any more Cash Apps here I was reading? That was Krista. Okay. Pierpont sends $5 and says, no matter what, Brian Albert batted cleanup. Most likely. Okay. Any more Cash Apps? 5 here to bang through. Jay sends $5 and says, did Paul O'Keefe almost kill someone in a DUI crash? Yes. An elderly man at that, who was very upset about it in the police report. And Paul was shit-faced. So there's that. And Karen bailed him out of jail. So there's that. Samantha sends $5. What does the panel think of Higgins and Albert going to New York for funeral services, but never going to John's? Well, the panel's gone. But I thought it was pretty shitty, Samantha. And I think it's pretty telling. So thank you. Megan sends $5 and says, my mother was severely mentally ill and witnessed her run my dad over. Yikes. Sorry to hear that. It's traumatic. Okay. John's weight and height are the same as my dad's. Also, she gunned it. My dad lived, but all injuries were from the waist down. Oh, I see what you're getting at there. John was not run over by a car. Thank you, Turtleboy. Thank you, Megan, for sharing that horrific, traumatic anecdote for $5. Thank you. John sends $25. Says, would love to get Andrea Burkhart. She's a lawyer, isn't she? On the show one night soon. She's dope, measured, rational, intelligent. Thanks for all you're doing and have done in this case, brother. Much love from Tasmania, Australia. Dope. You got the Tasmanian Devil. All right. Nice to see you. Awesome show tonight. Another Aussie. Thank you, John. Laura sends $6 and says, see Mark Bederow today on Collier Landry. Is that a show? He explains the case simply and exactly to someone who's clueless about Massachusetts versus Karen Reed. It's the best, on point and unflawed. Bederow is the best. Yeah, he's great. So is Melanie Little. That's why I like I liked what he said tonight about how like every lawyer he talks to is unanimous. Like this is going horribly for the Commonwealth. He's real. He's not like one of us. He's not like a rah Karen, Justice FKR guy. He's like a lawyer. He's looking at this from a lawyer perspective. So, all right. Anyway, it's been a long night. It's almost midnight. Huge fucking show tonight. Huge audience. Great to see. We still got over 6,000 people. It's almost midnight. But anyone else have anything before we call in tonight? That's what I'm saying. Hey, I got to be with my homies, for the verdict. Come on. Like I like Ted Daniel, but he's not my homie. I can't give him a high five when this goes down. I'd rather watch it with my homies, So sorry guys, I'm probably gonna do the verdict party. I'd be kind of stupid not to. All right. I hope most weekends are probably terrible for Gretchen Voss. She's a sad menopausal woman going through a bad divorce who is, I don't know how the fuck she affords to live in Concord anymore, but she's just a miserable, disgusting human being. So She can go fuck herself. All right. Anyway, cool. Grant Smith Ellis, people like, I mean, he's got an order against him. Remember, never forget, Grant Smith Ellis cannot go to court because he assaulted a woman. And that's it. That's all you need to know about Grant Smith Ellis. He assaults women and can't go to court as a direct result of that. All right. All right, guys. So we're going to call it a night. And we will see you guys all. Yeah, Celtic party Thursday, first one. Probably do Turtle Club Wednesday or Friday this week. But live show will be Tuesday. I think game 2 of the NBA Finals is probably on Saturday, right? Which means we'll have to do a Sunday show. But we'll get that when we get there. But anyway, guys. Yeah, one more time. If you send an email with your theory, delete. See ya. So don't waste your time. All right, guys. We'll see you guys on Tuesday night. Peace to you bum crease turtle riders. Happy Sunday.